We've got one shot to feel alive. We've only got one shot. We've got one shot. Do you feel alive? We've got one shot. We've got one shot. Do you feel alive? Get in, get out. You know that we won't back down to feel alive. Waiting for the chance to show the world who we are. We've only got one shot. We've only got one shot. Oh, we gotta do it right to feel alive. Waiting for the chance to show the world who we are. We've only got one shot.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you're watching in the world, welcome back to Creator Series. We're getting to crunch time now in this Drivers Only Championship, and what stands with us today is the Japanese Grand Prix. Hold your cherry blossom, there's plenty of it out on the track. We head to the land of the rising sun for what should be a fantastic event upcoming. My name is Kieran McGinley. Unfortunately, you've got me as your presenter for tonight. Isn't that great? Isn't that great for you all? But I'm not here alone. I've got a fantastic commentary crew who we can bring in right now, who will take you through today's proceedings. It's Tom Wilkinson and John Harris, who will be your commentary team for today. And of course, Meraki miraculously finishing a very good third place, I believe, last time out in Japan, having had a quiet race throughout, but managed to get that result when it truly mattered. What that means for the championship is that there are 3 points separating the top three. We'll run through it, I'm sure, later on. But Tom, what a race we had last time out. Had a bit of everything, including a Ben Daly who has broken the duck of wins in Creator Series.
Finally, over 200 days, classic Brazil, I think is the best way to sum it up. We had rain, it was dry, wet, dry, brilliant finish as well. The battle between Tim McMarlick and Kareem 70. That was so close, wasn't it? In the end, you can see the gap there, less than 0.2 per second, the dash for the line. And Meraki, you mentioned it in P3, doing what vintage Meraki used to do, which is just be completely non-existent throughout the race, and then 5 laps to go, just spawns in a podium place.
I love it. And yeah, it was a hectic day for sure. Safso even gave us a wave. He started really well, but unfortunately fell away a little bit. That late safety car breathed new life into him towards the end of that race, but he finished in 12th place. It was a case of the Saubers, though, as well, John, really coming to blows, because there was that pit lane incident where they both got a 10-second penalty. They managed to both recover, though. Gillen to 4th place, Razin to 11th.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, was it? But at the end of the day, it's a super tricky pit entry, isn't it? Because you got that sort of mini chicane there and you're arriving at top speed. So, it happens at the end of the day, but to have it happen with 2 teammates, not ideal for sure. But the pace, though, in that Sauber sometimes when you need maybe a little bit of straight line speed. In Brazil, it was kind of sort of a give and take situation in that mid sector. It wasn't ideal, but then again, the overtaking was supreme and Alex made it work up to P4. So it's going to be super interesting today as well in Japan because of that same reason. You've got 2 sectors where you need the downforce and then the overtaking. You need it on those 2 straights. Will they make it work? Who knows? It's going to be so exciting, in my opinion.
From one cult classic to another, Tom, we go from Brazil and then we go straight into Japan. Now, as we were growing up, obviously Japan used to be one of the last races. It used to be the last race of the season back in the 70s and the 80s when it was first onto the calendar. It's back here as the third to last race of the Creator Series. Good to see it at this end of the calendar, I feel.
It is. I mean, we've got 2 legendary circuits, haven't we, back-to-back, that used to be where we crowned so many champions, Interlagos and then Suzuka. Now we've got Abu Dhabi. I'll just leave that one to the side. But A track that in qualifying is going to be absolutely amazing. The way the drivers can attack this circuit, in particular the first sector, is so satisfying when you get it right. But you do have to be creative with your overtakes. It's not the easiest of circuits to follow. We know that will be increased difficulty because of the dirty air and the way that the F1 25 game works. So I think we could be seeing some drivers getting a little bit creative, just trying some different things. And if people are out of position on the grid, which we've seen quite a lot of in the last few weeks, some big names starting towards the back, that's just going to make their life that little bit harder.
John, obviously a lot of high-speed aero, especially as Tom said in that first sector, the S's going through there. You've got the two Degners, the hairpin, where we would normally, well, would love to have seen a Kamui Kobayashi dive bomb into that hairpin. We've also got the 130R, which is a much less terrifying corner in the 2020s than it was, say, 50, 60 years ago. There's something about this circuit, though. Qualifying is going to be critical coming up.
Yes, one of those old school tracks, isn't it? There's quite a few medium speed corners. There's no sort of, I want to say, Herman Tilke type corners. You know, there's obviously the last chicane, but apart from that, really, there's multiple lines that are possible into every single corner. But again, with the dirty air, can you get sort of an undercut, overcut situation into the turns? I'd love to see a Kamui Kobayashi overtake, but I sense that maybe they might lose their front wing in attempting. I mean, Kamui did it once, losing his front wing. So it'll be very, very sort of risky to attempt that. But at the end of the day, this is a strategic circuit. Every single time we've seen a title in real life go down at Suzuka, it's always been the pit stops that have been the winners. So who will get the right strategy? Who will brace the safety cars and come out a winner? You'll have to wait and see.
Well, we can't decide the championship here, but we can certainly have a look at the standings and what they look like heading into the Japanese Grand Prix. As you can see, Meraki is at the top of the standings there on 110 points. Tim McMurdoch with his win puts himself now in second place. Alex Gillen in third. And as you see, 3 points separating those top 3. And also, you can see by the teams, there's been a major change around with who's driving where. And that's all based on that driver index. It tracks the form and then assigns cars accordingly. So the best informed drivers are in the Sauber, and those that are not so in the great form in the McLaren. That's how it all works, John. It's shaping up to be a fantastic championship.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think Meraki will be very happy to be put in the Sauber, but you know, the thing is, that is a key thing as a driver, is being adaptable. It's all about using the equipment that you have, and I can guarantee you that at least half of the drivers on the grid can win a race in any car. It's just the mindset. You have to be confident in what you're doing, and the minute you show any doubts to it, cracks start happening whether you like it or not. So we'll have to wait and see who adapts well, and obviously the changes of grip, changes of balance in the car, that's going to be super tricky around Suzuka.
I mean, there's been sort of race wins this season. It's been absolutely brilliant to just watch on here. Lolly Noba picking up the win in Mexico. That puts him currently 6th in the standings there. Gillen's the only, I believe, repeat winner so far, and that would be yeah, that would be fair to say. Gillen right in there, right in the mix of it, as he always is, looking to try and defend that title. It's not going to be easy heading into the last few, Tom. I mean, has there been any standout performers for you so far this season? Anyone that's sort of been a glint in your eye outside maybe the top 3?
Well, consistency has been really difficult because of the chopping and changing with all the cars and the differing performances and the track-specific benefits that you get from being in certain cars. I think this has been a great season for Vince, though. Obviously, he got his first win when we went to Zandvoort in reverse. But I think he's been probably the most consistent driver. Yes, he's in 4th place in the championship. He's only 23 points back. If he has a really strong week in the next coming 2, he could put himself in a really nice position going into the finale and challenge the 3, I would say, very established names that sit in front of him. 3, the magic number in front. You've got the 3 main championship contenders, all 3 of them former champions, and 3 points separating them.
Yeah, it's almighty close, and that's just the way we like it. John, has there been any standout performers for you so far this season?
Wow, too many to mention, I think. Everyone, I think, has had their time in the limelight, whether it's starting from the front in a car and just defending against drivers that maybe have the pace. I want to say sometimes, for example, Meraki's performance, where, you know, it doesn't go noticed on camera, but they've been there, they've scored, you know, solid points. And that's the kind of thing, as we're saying, consistency is difficult. And the drivers that can do that race week in, race week out, it really just sets them up for success. And so, yeah, I think, to be honest, the people that have changed cars a lot and adapted and still scored solid points, those are the drivers that are standouts.
Well, we'll talk about qualifying because it's as your full qualifying, if you like, the wild card announced for this Japanese Grand Prix qualifying. 3-stage qualifying. Q1, everyone is on Inter's tyres. Qualifying 2, everyone's on mediums. And then Q3, everyone's on the softer tyres. Tom, everyone gets a chance to get that Inter's pole points. They've got a whole session to do it, it sounds like.
100%, and there's so much more at stake as well, because normally we don't see every driver go for it, and those are the drivers that you would imagine are going to be at a disadvantage because they don't have what you could effectively say the miles in their legs going into this. They don't have the practice, because it's not that easy just strapping on the intermediate tyres when it's dry, because you will struggle for rear grip. The temperatures will just skyrocket and snowball as the laps continue. And you're probably going to have to use multiple sets of those intermediate tyres, because once you set one flying lap on them, remember, this isn't just the 6 minutes we have at the start. This is the entire 18 minutes of Q1. They're going to have to keep changing over, because it is going to be difficult. So you would imagine the drivers that consistently go for it are going to be pretty comfortable, but then there's that extra battle that everybody is going for that 1 point as well.
There's the assumption, of course, that it's going to be dry, in which case the Inters will, you're right, absolutely burn up a treat. But John, how do you expect, from a driver's point of view, the absolute wrong tyres for dry conditions, especially if it comes to it? What befaces a driver? How on earth do you sort of kind of prepare for that? And for those drivers that don't normally challenge for those Inters pole, where do you sort of expect them to be in the mix?
Well, for a start, it would be incredibly funny if it was full wet, like rain conditions and they had no grip that way as well, with tyres not being able to heat up. The main problem is actually the track this time, because Sector 1, Sector 2, really fast-flowing corners, so you'll overheat the tyres. And then you've got some traction zones and some braking zones in Sector 3, where you really have to have something left, otherwise you're going to lock up or go wide. And so one of the main things is going to be actually just managing the temperatures throughout the lap, because you might want to drop a couple of tenths, for example, in Sector 1, to keep the tyres alive into the hairpin, where you really need that grip to set you up for a good Sector 3. So I think, honestly, it's track dependent, and maybe the people that have been doing it just for the points all throughout the season will have a small advantage, but with 2 or 3 sets of tyres, you'd expect the final runs to at least be on equal level. But again, it will be down to the people that have the confidence, because if you're really lighting up the tyres, when it gets oversteery or understeery, you have to know exactly how much grip you have. Maybe even force feedback settings on your wheel might be the key to just feel that grip through the corners.
Anything that can give you that sense of what the track is doing and how the car's behaving should be a good way to look about it. I will say as well, Tom, I was caught out. TK made a blinding call last week when he made a prediction of sprint race winner. It was Kareem who got the sprint race victory. He did a fantastic job in it as well. Really showed me up in it by predicting that one. So I'm going to now hand it over to you two. Tom, I'll start with you. Predictions for pole?
I could be really boring and go for Kareem again, because I think this is a circuit that he's pretty decent at. He's getting more used and climatizing more and more to not having the racing line on, because it has for the majority of the time, when you use the racing line, it is effectively like having a hand held for the entirety of however many laps you do. On the other side of that, though, this is a circuit where if you're not in a rhythm, you're going to find it so difficult. It's all about flow with this track. So I'm actually going to go for Tim Malik again. I know he's not the best at getting pole positions. I think he's only got 5 in his entire Creator Series career. But to get the monkey off his back last week, I think he's just going to be freed up massively. 213 days, I think, was the gap between drinks for him without the race win. I think we are going to see a potentially unleashed version of Tim Malik.
John, who's your backing then for pole position then? And maybe even a surprise for the Inters pole. Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to back Alex Gillen in a bid to manifest him and summon him into the game so we can get the qualifying underway. There you go.
You betted him out there.
Everyone boo Alex. Boo. There you go. We got that out of the way now. There you go. Well, yeah, I'd expect nothing less from someone who's right in the championship hunt to keep everyone waiting. It's the mind games. They've already started, see. Alex Gillen in 3rd place at the moment. He'll be jumping in and apparently booting up F125. So we won't be too much longer. Maybe, I promise. It depends. It's Alex we're waiting on. Tom, speaking of Alex, he's the defending champ. He's put in a thorough season so far. Of course, he missed Singapore. And that seems to be why he's 3 points off at the moment, because he's been, once again, one of the better drivers this season.
He has been relatively consistent. He has had a few dodgy ones. I think he has struggled as well with the Sauber in the last couple of weeks, which is quite ironic considering at the start of the season he said, well, I think the Sauber might be the 7th best car, and if I'm in that for the entirety of the campaign, I'll be pretty happy. It started off well, hasn't been on the podium since those back-to-back wins in Monaco and Mexico a few weeks ago. And we saw that he did come a cropper a little bit. We saw it in the sprint last week. He just got embroiled in a first lap collision. He's got involved in a couple of scrapes and skirmishes as well in the last couple of weeks. So I think he'll want to just try and keep his nose that little bit cleaner. But we know he's a formidable competitor. And I think he is also desperate to become the first driver to get 3 Creator Series championships. Because him and Ben, remember, they are level pegging now. The two that have multiple titles. Gillen would love to get to 3 first.
I'm just hearing from Gareth in the studio behind us that we might be going without Gillen, because I've just seen, I don't know if you heard my phone vibrate and light up. Alex Gillen has just gone live on Twitch. So there you go. He's loaded in apparently with 3 seconds to go. So we're getting into qualifying right now. So without further ado then, I'm going to hand you over to our lovely commentary team who will take you through the qualifying session. So we have John Harris and Tom Wilkerson. Gentlemen, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Kieran, as we're greeted with a lovely loading screen, as Alex Gillen, by the skin of his teeth, has just about scraped it into the lobby. I think we have got everyone. There was a chance Matt212 wasn't going to be here for qualifying either, but I can see his gamer tag in there, so it should be all 20 drivers. And first and foremost, for the one and only time this season, it is the return of full qualifying with the wildcard embedded into that one as well. Q1, Q2, Q3, all 3 of them on very different tyre compounds. And John, you mentioned it was a really good point. These intermediate tyres, you're going to have to treat them like gold dust. They're going to be so difficult to manage. We see in real life with the soft tyres around this track, you've got to baby them. You've got to be careful in that first set, because when you get to the Casio Triangle, very likely you're going to have absolutely no grip left.
Yeah, I was going to reference a real life fact actually with Kalle Rovanperä, a rally driver that's going to go and try and get into F2 in a few seasons' time. In a rally driving aspect, you have to conserve the tires. They're very soft compounds. So drivers like that have sort of maybe even different knowledge throughout different games will know exactly what you have to do. And maybe some of the drivers that are only used to the Formula One game may struggle because you're used to pushing flat out. You're used to only looking at the delta effectively to manage your time. And here you're going to have basically 2 pairs of eyes, one looking at the tire temperatures, one looking at the track, trying to actually do the lap. So it will be a case of managing the apex speeds, because you can use the braking when you've got downforce and you've got a lot of speed going into the corner. The brakes will still be fine until you really overheat the tires, and then on the apex is where you have to be careful, because as soon as you start scrubbing, especially the front tires, then the grip will go away. And the problem is with an overheating tire is the more you overheat it, the less grip you have. The more you try to extract grip out of it, the more it stops working. And it's just a snowball effect that carries on and on and on until, well, either you give up or the tires give up, basically.
100%. And the difference is as well, normally when we run the intermediates, it's just the rear tyres that drivers have to be careful of. It is going to be the fronts as well that they have to manage. It's going to be fascinating to see how this dynamic unfolds. If you are new and you have missed the wildcard, we are back with full qualifying, and we are using 3 different compounds in each section, with 5 drivers eliminated in Q1 and Q2 as per real life. It's the intermediate, the green stripe tyres in qualifying 1. Then we switch to the yellow striped medium tyres for Q2, and then we are on the red striped soft rubber for the final part of qualifying. The main shootout, where you would imagine the big guns will all be gunning for pole position. Matty D13 first out there in that Red Bull racing car, should be one of the favourites, you would say. His appearances have been few and far between in the last few Creator Series campaigns, but has had some really strong finishes, albeit in very decent cars.
Yeah, I'd say also Matt212, I'm just remembering, he has quite a bit of experience on multiple games, so he might be someone to get the most out of these intermediate tyres. One thing I'll say as well is that drivers will also struggle to readapt to the dry tyres afterwards, because when you only do 1 lap on a set of intermediates, it's fine. You just do it for the fun of it to try and get the point, and then you reset to go and do your actual fast laps. But here, you have to actually extract all of it to go to the next session. And that means that you change your driving style, and then onto the mediums, which are sort of a medium grip tyre. That can really throw everything off in terms of the driving. But here we go for our first lap underway as they cross the line. Latitude 13. Let's see if they can master with traffic already getting out So that's not ideal approaching turn 1, and cars all the way, and that's a front wing gone. Not an ideal start to qualifying. Who would that be that's out on track? It's a McLaren, and it is Lenz the GOAT. Unfortunately, that has just disregarded everything to do with leaving drivers getting their laps going.
100%. That is not ideal at all. I'm surprised neither driver was given a penalty for that, because the game does like to hand out 5-place grid penalties for any form of contact in qualifying. Yeah, 3 moving chicanes coming through turn number 1. I think that was always going to end badly for Matty D13. Here is Jorik van Geffen. He's now got to deal with the traffic going into the 2 Degners. Through the first one we go. Just a little bit tentative there. You're understandable, because remember they've got the whole session to get acclimatised to these intermediate tyres, and that of course means that the intermediate pole is not just within the first 6 minutes of this first qualifying session. Really tentative Jorik there through the hairpin. I think he's just trying to get a feel of this and might be nabbing a bit of a slipstream from the McLaren in front.
Yeah, you can see with the wheel inputs, he was just waiting to get the car turned in, suggesting that there's understeer happening. You could see it there on turn in. Probably some dirty air from the McLaren that's still not really doing a great job of getting out of the way, to be fair. But yeah, you could just see, as soon as they turned in, the front wheels just went nope, and the car just slid with a bit of like snap understeer, if you can call it that. So what through 130R should still be flat out, although it's quite a bit of a twitch there into the last chicane. No lockups, that will be crucial, hitting both apexes it looks like, and getting decent traction. So it looks like the rear tires are not lighting up as predicted, or Jorik is doing a great job of keeping them in the temperature zone. 135.6 is the first lap on the board.
I think it's going to get smashed, though, because he's lost 1.2 seconds in the first sector to the likes of Grid Jokes. Razin Chai going very quickly. Meraki as well in the mid-34s. Meraki and Grid Jokes very, very similar. Same with Concept 7 as well. Here comes Matt 212, who goes half a second quicker than Jorik van Geffen, but I think the second Silver Arrow is going to smash it by 1.6 seconds. 33.5. That is the difference between drivers that tend to run the intermediates and sometimes just bolt on the soft tyres at the start of the session. Concept takes it away from Meraki, separated by 17 milliseconds. Chappers into third. Scratch that, because Lolly now into third. Top 3 covered by less than a tenth of a second. Now less than 2 tenths, because it's Razin Chai. Remember, the Season 5 champion trying to reignite his title hopes, currently holding first.
Yeah, as you were saying, literally the difference in times is very contrasting, because the drivers that are used to running on the intermediates, they're going 5 tenths faster in the first sector and 5 tenths faster in the second sector. I'm comparing it to Matt 212's times at the moment, and that is just such a gap to get back. That might be a little bit difficult, and maybe even disconcerting, because it's all about confidence. When you're looking at it as from a driving perspective, and you go, hang on a minute, I'm a second off the pace, you can try too hard at the end of it. We've got Tuki across the line. What can they do? P6. Okay, so midfield pace, round about the pace that we'd expect, again, for people that aren't really used to being on the intermediate tyres. So yeah, not too bad. Again, nobody making any major mistakes in their first opening lap, so that would suggest that people are taking it quite tentatively.
The exception of maybe Tim McMahon, down in 8th at the moment on a 34 flat, still half a second quicker of Ches, who slots in just behind. But Ben losing 8 tenths of a second in the middle sector. You wonder maybe if he made a bit of a blunder going through Spoon Curve as those tyres started to skyrocket in temperatures. Here comes the reigning champion, third at the moment in the standings, but only 3 points off the summit. Alex Gillen also going for his third Creator Series crown and his third win of the season. 3, very much the magic number, as we said. Travelling through Spoon Curve now, trying to get the front end to bite whilst keeping the rears very much intact. Now pulling gears on the what used to be a ferocious run up into 130R. Saxo into second place. It's an Aston Martin 2-3, so close, right at the sharp end. Gillen tracking fairly nicely at the moment, but a middle sector that's, well, not particularly impressive, it has to be said, and a fairly steady first sector as well. Probably tells me that Gillen isn't quite up to speed yet, courtesy of coming into the lobby 3 seconds before we got going. So here we go, barreling up to the line. Reigning champion slots in only to 9th position. Is ahead of one of his main rivals in Tim McMardick, but still with a hell of a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that, to be honest. Well, Karim goes and shows that Alpine has quite a bit of speed. Look at that. 32.6 right there, 2 tenths of a second exactly in the lead for at the moment over Razin. So that is a great turn of pace. We'll say for Alex a little bit perplexing there with the pace, seeing as I know he does like this track and he's very strong in the medium speed corners. So Lens the Goat crossed the line. I think, yeah, there was a mistake definitely on that. That 35.1 is a solid, well, 3 seconds off the pace. So wow, that's a lot of time. 3 seconds, isn't it?
I think what we're seeing is the realistic performance on these intermediate tyres means a considerable less amount than it does when we're on the soft, because this is all about feel. This is less about what the car is able to do under you and what you're able to do with the machinery you are given. That's why we're seeing a lot of big names towards the front. 2 champions in the top 3. Kareem 17 back on form after finishing second in Brazil 7 days ago, I should say, and of course won the sprint race as well, starting to get back to his best, the season 9 champion. Concept and Meraki rounding out your top 5, covered by 0.3 of a second. It's Tim McMulloch and Alex Gillen out of position at the moment. They won't be concerned at this stage, but remember, you need to be inside the top 15, otherwise you're going to get the boot before we get to the second part of qualifying.
It's an interesting point that you bring up there, actually, to do with the cars. I did, or maybe I did half consider it. The balance of the cars is different, obviously, with the difference in performance. And that means that sometimes when other cars get understeer, you can get oversteer and go a little bit faster as Riccio 3 goes into P14. So not replicating the pace of his teammate at the moment in that Alpine. And Matty D13, I don't think improved on that lap, still 33.8. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see that maybe the cars like the McLaren that are a little bit stable, or more stable on the rear end at least, are getting a lot of understeer, and that's how they can't extract the performance out of the car, even though they should have the most amount of grip. So, yeah, it's all about having smooth driving style, because if you start sawing at the wheel and like overheating the tires a lot through the opening corners, you'll never get the tires back. So, let's see if Lodinova through last chicane here, will he be able to get nice smooth traction? Still a little bit of hesitation on the throttle there, and all the way to the line. Will it be an improvement? Oh no, starting the lap, is it?
Yes, just starting that. Tim McMulloch has gone again on that first set of intermediate tyres and has got himself in a much better position. 33.2, found 0.8 of a second, and you imagine that is probably Ben safely through into the next part of qualifying, unless we see some drastic improvements from the likes of the Red Bulls and the McLarens. Matty D13 escaping the bottom 5 after bolting a new front wing onto the front of that Red Bull racing car. Jorrit van Geffen, we saw his first flying lap, was on the tentative side, I think it's fair to say, but already 0.7 up through the first sector. We're looking to take even more chunks of time out of it. Your bottom 5 as things stand, with just under half the session to go. Chesnoy Gaming, Super Noodle, Bagel, Lens to go, Jorrit van Geffen, and Infratic, who's yet to get a time on the board. Fabio leaving himself with a little bit of work to do in the final part of Q1, but should, you would imagine, in that Williams have the pace to escape at least the first part of qualifying. 1.1 seconds up now, Jorrit flying through the middle sector. This should be a fairly decent lap, although is still substantially down on some of the time set by Kareem 17 and Razin Chai, so I think he's still going to be in and around that 14th, 15th, 16th position. So under pressure here, under the cosh round in the final corner with Jorrit van Geffen, former winner in the Creator Series, and doesn't escape the bottom 5.
No, I was looking at the sector times. That literally, the sector 2 is 1 second off the pace alone. So the tyres just falling off a cliff, or maybe even just the balance of the car just not allowing him to turn in, because you can see the drivers are taking minimal steering angle, just trying to get it stopped and then rotated. You could see the double steering into the corners, just trying to get any sort of rotation on the car. And can Infratic do anything? It looks like it'll be a semi-solid lap, and it puts him all the way up to P8. So that does put him a little bit of a margin of security in there, but for sure the margin's very, very close into here. And I would expect also to see a bit of improvement with the track rubbering in, which should at least give them a little bit more sensation of grip, if nothing else.
100%. Lodinova up to second, make that third, because Grid Jokes has absolutely blitzed the middle sector and now taking over from Kareem 17 right at the front of the field. Alex Gillen down in P11 at the moment. I think he has managed to improve though, because he was around that 1:34 time, similar to where Tim McMulloch was, but they've both managed to take a step forward with Dak Gavins, who, if you remember back on F124, the last time we visited the Suzuka circuit, did qualify on pole, but the wildcard was teammates swapped places. So he actually started from third. It was GB68 in the Aston Martin, the Green Machine, that inherited that pole position from his teammate. Alex Gillen diving into the pitch. P11 will be sweating a little bit, but if you compare him to Riccio 3, who currently occupies P16 as Jorrit doing some lawn mowing and cascading over the gravel and the grass into the pit lane, he's got 0.6 of a second as Alex in his back pocket. I think he will be Not comfortable, but he should be okay, especially if he finds an improvement on a new set of tyres.
Yeah, well, it's all about just staying safe, isn't it? Just improving to the next session and just getting these intermediate tyres out of the way. Obviously, still the point on offer though, so you do want to put everything at it to see if you can get that extra point. And this late in the championship, it can make a huge difference. It can just put the pressure on other drivers. So yeah, it will be fascinating to see how hard they push, because obviously, make a mistake, you might find yourself out of the session altogether. So yeah, really tricky. Meraki into the last chicane, nearly touching the grass there, but just gets away with it. It's a very good last chicane, keeping minimal speed up very high across the line. It's a 32.6, just missing out on provisional first place in the session by about 0.05 of a second. But you can see there the gap's super close. And again, that Sauber working like a treat.
100%. And Meraki used to be the king of the intermediate pole times, has the most still in the Creator Series history, though hasn't picked any up for some time, it has to be said. Razin Chai going again. Remember, there's still intermediate pole up for grabs, not just finishing inside the top 15 to make it through to the second part of qualifying. Matty D13, Riccio 3, Yorick Van Geffen, Super Noodle Bagel, and Len Goat. Currently the bottom 5 with just 4 minutes to go. Getting to the business end of this qualifying session. The Season 5 champion currently occupying position number 5, just ahead of Sasso and Concept 7. Raz with a decent first sector and finding a lot of time in the middle sector. If he can continue at this turn of pace, should be knocking Grid Jokes off the provisional intermediate pole time. Trying to get the car to rotate nicely. Just a little bit tentative. Had a couple of stabs. Trying to get it into the first part of the Casio triangle. Now trying to get the traction down out of the final corner. Will this be provisional pole? Yes, it will. Razin Chai lowers the benchmark even further. 32.3. Quarter of a second now between himself and the rest of the field.
Well, what can you say? A 33.9 in the first sector. The only driver dipping into the 33s there. Everybody else in the 34.1 at least. And then in sector 2, a 40.1, which is again 0.3 of a second clear on most of the other drivers. A few people in the 40.2s. So yeah, it's just again getting the tires into that perfect temperature for rotation. And I think maybe there's a certain aspect of driving style to it. If you can go with more sort of using the throttle and brake to rotate the car rather than the steering, you can keep the tires in their temperature longer. And let's see if that guy Vince can get a better time on the board here. Just trying to look at the sectors to see whether we are indeed on a lap. But will it be good enough? 31.32. It's already gone past the pole lap time at the moment, and it's a 33.0, so still P9 for the moment. A lot of drivers may be finding their sweet spot in terms of pace, but trying to get more at this stage is going to be a challenge, because again, you have that delta time, which is always lurking in the corner, telling you you need to push a little bit harder, and it can really throw you into a false sense of trying to go for a time that is unrealistic. Chappers, again, the Ferrari's struggling a little bit with pace, a bit like the McLarens, and I must say the Red Bull's also struggling. So are we seeing actually the fact that the more stable cars are really struggling on these intermediate tires?
I think it's a combination of that and the fact that realistic cars, when it's all about feel and the control and how you can handle the skyrocketing temperatures, it's less about the car you're in and more about the ability of the driver. Big laps have come in though. Chaps is finding a little bit of time, does need to get his skates on ever so slightly. Same with Alex Gillen, who's been bumped back down into P13, courtesy of improvements for Matt 212, for Dak Gavins, and for Matty D13, who's up in 9th place. Razin Chai retiring. That's a bit of an ego push from the Season 5 champ. Chappers needs this lap, 14th at the moment, but he's up into 3rd, blitzing the final sector. His middle sector was substandard. His final sector only 300ths off the best of the session, and he'll definitely be through to the next part of qualifying. That is going to raise the eyebrows of a number of big names. Infratic down in 12th, Gillen 14th now, only 4/10 clear of the drop zone. Timo Malik has found an improvement on his second set of tyres, dipping his toes into the 132s, currently holding 8th place at the moment.
Also, just wanted to say, if you look at the track map, you can see a lot of drivers going very slow on their warm-up laps. A lot of drivers starting their laps now, so maybe less prevalent to watch on the map. But is there a case also of some drivers overcooking the tyres or getting them too hot to start the lap? Maybe you want to start the lap with slightly cold tyres still, so that they only overheat towards sector 3. There's a lot of strategy in this, and I think we're seeing, as you said, Some drivers just nailing it more than others and thinking outside of the box. Huge snap of oversteer for Super Noodle Bagel, and that means throughout all of these long straights of Sector 3, it's going to be losing a tenth or two down here. See if we can spot these sector times. It's looking all right for the moment, but maybe with that dirty air through the last chicane here, might be on for a mediocre time. Yeah, the time has gone already. The mistakes have been made beforehand, and that's still P18, sadly. And with that being effectively their last lap, because they will be overheating the tyres, that is unfortunately probably them out of the session.
100% Super Noodle Bagel gone, joined by the second McLaren of Lens to Go, slapped with a 35.1. Riccio 3 needs to get a time on the board here, as does Alex Gillen, who's going to be one of the last over the line. Riccio 3, remember, picked up pole position a few weeks ago in Qatar, could be knocked out in the first part of qualifying though. The Alpine charging through the Casio triangle, looked a little bit reluctant to go through, but as he cuts the beam, it is an improvement up into P4. These times are going to continue to flip-flop. Grid jokes on the fresh set of tyres, goes fastest overall. Matty D13 was fastest in the first sector, but didn't find an improvement on his lap time, stays only 11th. The second McLaren of Chesnord Gaming also under pressure, as is Alex Gillen, who has been pushed right down to the bubble.
Yeah, this is crunch time now for Alex. He needs to go for this. It's looking tidy for the moment, but on the pit straight, still got not on the pit straight, on the support race pit straight actually. So technically correct, but using the battery still to try and get some speed. So he saved a lot of the battery, maybe not using it because of traction purposes. This is looking like a solid time for the moment. Really struggling with the traction across the line. Will it be enough? P15. It's not safe at the moment.
Well, it's not going to be Infratic. Infratic is gone 16th at best. Is it Chesnord Gaming? No, doesn't improve. Stays 17th. Super Noodle Bagel is done. The reigning champion has escaped qualifying one by the skin of his teeth. 0.04 of a second separating Alex Gillen and Infratic. If Fabio got his final lap in, that would have been Gillen starting 16th around a circuit where it's very difficult to overtake. He pulled it out of the bag in the final sector with an 18 flat because he was down by a tenth on his personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2.
Yeah, just looking at those sector times, that was so... I mean, probably that oversteer through the Casio triangle was probably what saved him, to be honest. He got on the throttle super early, and that meant just saving that extra tenth of a second was enough. But, whoa, a way to just put it all on the line. He could have made it a lot easier for himself. And, yeah, with Meraki and P8, you have to ask yourself, where's that pace? And will he be able to find the pace? No doubt he will on the dry tyres, but just shows to you how sort of peaky the performance can be when you're not in optimal conditions.
100%. Going through Fabio's chat, some people saying that it was a strategic disaster class from him, which is not good news at all for Fabio, missing out by the barest of margins, just a third of a tenth separating himself and Alex Gillen. Matty D13 was also under the cosh, made a mistake on his final lap after going fastest in the first sector, but does get through from P14. Tim Marder didn't have to go again, and at the top it is Lolanoba who tops qualifying one, and by 5 milliseconds ahead of Gridrick takes the intermediate pole time, so that is an extra point added to the total of the RB driver.
Yes, indeed, and yeah, it's I think maybe a disappointing session for quite a few drivers there. I think there'll be quite a few head scratches. So we have indeed Lolanoba that takes that point with the Cash App Racing Bulls, but we have crucially Infratic out, Chesnoid Gaming out, Jorrit van Griffen. Right, Van Heffen, sorry, I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly. Super Noodle Bagel in P19 and Lens the Goats P20. So very, very unfortunate for them. And the times really tapering off after Chesnoid.
100%, really interesting. Well, Kieran, that was a fascinating session, wasn't it? We almost had one of the championship protagonists there, knocked out in Q1.
We did indeed. I mean, I was keeping an eye on everybody, trying to work out and watch about 12 or 13 different streams at the same time, but my highlight is Lolanoba pretty much surprising himself that he grabbed that into pole position point. Primo, pole position, yeah, he did, he grabbed it, but yeah, fascinating one there, and some, yeah, big ones out in Q1. Gillen getting through by the skin of his teeth. I think that was even too close for comfort for him. We'll load into Q2 very, very shortly, of course, but I'm enjoying it. I hope you two are as well.
really fun session. I think it was really interesting to see the dynamic because you had to be kept on your toes. You had drivers finding massive amounts of time in the second half of the session on the brand new intermediate tyres. That's what left Alex Gillen under the microscope. Tim McMahon was in a little bit of danger at some stage as well. And obviously Fabio didn't get a final lap in, and that's what cost him dearly.
Yeah, and John, I was just going to say, John, before we just about rejoin that qualifying session, your sort of premonitions of being on that inter-tyre and, you know, all sorts of stability issues for these drivers came true in the end. I mean, we saw drivers struggling and we saw a lot of top drivers struggling.
I will say also, we saw a lot of drivers adapting their driving style. You saw when we were on board, a lot of drivers taking 2 or 3 snaps at the wheel, trying to get the car turned in, especially in Sector 3. And that is a very common technique, for example, in rally. When you're not confident, you just get the initial bite of the tyres, and then you try and take a second bite to get the actual grip. And I think the drivers that really struggled in that session are the drivers that didn't try different techniques on the first or even second run. To get the optimal pace for the end, and we really saw those times all plummet all the way down by I think 0.3 of a second at the end there, so it had a big impact.
Well, without further ado, then we're into Q2 already, so Tom and John, it's back to you.
Oh, the intermediate tyres have been put back in the box, and now it's the yellow stripe mediums that are going to be strapped on for this session. This might feel a little bit more representative of what we could see in the race. We have got, however, Tim Mark out on the intermediate tyres. Interesting decision from him there. Whether he just wants to try and save some of his mediums, I'm not 100% sure on that one. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if this has as much of an impact. I think this will be where the realistic cars, we start to see a little bit more of them coming to the forefront. We didn't see it too much in the first qualifying session. It was McLaren, it was Red Bull, it was Ferrari, the main 3 teams that were really struggling towards the back, Williams as well. But this is an opportunity for Alex Gillen in particular to reset. Lucky, his words not mine, after that first qualifying session. Wasn't quite up to speed after nearly missing quali. But he has got another opportunity.
Yeah, I'm just thinking actually out of the box a little bit that maybe some drivers took a sort of compromised setup a little bit, or a setup more adapted to the dry tyres that will now come to fruition, or if you're already knocked out, has not worked out for you. So we might see also a change in sort of the balance of the car. There's obviously limited things you can change, so it's going to be a very interesting session. And for those starting on the intermediate tyres, you have to ask the question as well, are they leaving it a little bit too late to get readapted? They're meant to be on mediums,
well,
yes.
What I would say is, and it's been pointed out in the chat as well, if you remember, you only get 1 set of medium tyres in qualifying, where you get, I think you get 3 sets of the soft compound tyres, even in full qualifying. So they will be trying to just treat them with a little bit of respect. That's why Ben's gone out, you can imagine, on the intermediate tyres. It could be a mad dash come the end of this qualifying session. Yes, it might be slightly backloaded, but that'll create a real skirmish to try and find some track position in the last 5 minutes.
Yes, I didn't really. Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's been quite a while since I've actually driven any competitive racing in the F1 game, so I did forget the fact that you only get 1 set of mediums. But that throws a spanner in the works, doesn't it? Because if you go out on a tyre now, and you set your fastest lap, for example, Tuki, 129.1, well, you're using up your tyres, aren't you? And then you get toward the end of the session where the track is at its fastest, or it should be at its fastest, and you've got a worn set of tyres that are missing a few tenths. So this will be a very interesting sort of strategic session, even before we've started the race.
It's going to be a really interesting balancing act, though, we have to say, because do you try and get that solid banker time in first at the start of the session, or do you wait and just leave yourself under pressure come the end and effectively turn it into a one-shot qualifying, a one-lap shootout for some of the big names? Tuki fastest, like you said, on a 29.1. Matt Steve 13 doesn't go faster. He is on a 29.4. Datkovic's also electing to go out there early on the medium tyre. Should be fastest? No. Poor first sector, I should say, for Datkovic. Lost half a second in the first part of the lap. He's nearly 4/10 down on Tuki. Ben has set a lap time, a banker lap on the intermediates, 3.5 seconds off the outright pace. That is, of course, because they don't want to use the mediums at the start of the session, some of these cars. So this is a bit of a double-edged sword. Really interesting to see how this is going to unfold as we go through the qualifying session. Is the race today? Yes, the race is today, and I'll get into the wildcard as well. If you missed the start of the stream, this is for the one and only time this season. We are running full qualifying Q1, Q2, Q3 before 100% 53 lap race, and the wildcard is using different tyre compounds in each of the 3 sessions. We had the intermediate tyres in qualifying 1, it would be the medium tyres in qualifying 2 of the Q3, it would be the soft compound tyre.
Yeah, just want to say, Joris leaving the session there. I think going back to the drawing board in terms of maybe setup, going to try a few things out with the time that has left before the race session. So, across the line, Karim deciding, as you discussed earlier, Tom, that maybe just putting other drivers under pressure is the correct strategy. A 28-8 right there, and it's all happened in that first and last sector. There were some really strong times there from Karim, so that Alpine has a good turn of pace in in a straight line, which is paradoxical when you look at their performance in the real world, and sector 1, which is a very sort of demanding balance sector where you need to have a stable car. So everything working out for the moment. Grid Jokes obviously on the intermediate tyres, just not really pushing, just trying to keep the car out of the wall and get a sighter lap in. But yeah, Meraki, Tiamat Marduk and Grid Jokes, the drivers that have set an intermediate time. And this is Meraki, who will be, I think, diving back into the pits at the end of this lap, probably.
What will be fascinating is if somebody manages to get through on the intermediate tyres. Now, it's an almost nil possibility, let's be honest, because everybody's going to head out on the medium tyres. And you find it so unlikely, don't you, that 6 drivers are going to fail to get a lap time in. But it could be very interesting, and somebody might be finding themselves #blessed to come in the end of this if they do manage to scrape through on an intermediate banker lap. Lonova picked up intermediate pole in the first part of qualifying, setting down a lovely benchmark as he's in that V-Carb car with a decent run of form under his belt. Of course, picking up the win a few weeks ago in Qatar. Decent first sector for Lolly. Purple, it has to be said, actually, by just over a tenth of a second to Kareem 17 and to Tuki as well. Very, very closely matched, though, the 4 times that we've got so far, with the exclusion of that guy Vince, who had a little bit of a sticky time. Didn't have the best start to his lap.
Yeah, no, a lot of people struggling in that first sector just to get the feel of the tyres turning in. You could see on board with Lola Nova through sector 1, he was turning in and then the front was washing out a little bit. So perhaps the setup just a little understeery for the medium tyres. Obviously, most drivers would do the entire qualifying session on the soft compound tyre. So it really does throw a spanner in the works. That guy Vince improves to a 28.7. He's put 3 laps on those tyres now. So that is probably the end of the good performance on the mediums. So we'll have to wait and see. As Lon Nova across the line, first lap on the mediums, is it a good one? It is indeed. 28.3, nearly 4/10 of a second clear of that guy Vince. So the Racing Bulls working incredibly well in this session.
Talker of a lap time, that from our Italian stallion. Nearly 4/10 of a second put on the head top of his teammate. Interesting call there from Datka Vince. Obviously wasn't feeling comfortable with his first flying lap of the session, but remember the medium tyres, they don't degrade as much as the softs. Look at that Riccio 3, desperately scrabbling for grip as he fails to get the power down and slots into 4th position. You would feel he might have been ahead of his teammate Kareem 17 if it wasn't for that massive whack of oversteer coming out of the Casio triangle. Concept 7, been very strong in qualifying, picked up a 2nd place in Mexico a few weeks ago, was on pole for that one as well. Slots into 6th position. Here's Aston Martin just behind the Ferrari of Tuki. 7 lap times have been set on the mediums and a further 3 on the inters. Chappers, Razin, Gill and Safsa, Matt 2 on 2, waiting until the end of the session to come out on their slick tyres. Tim Malik fancies it now, maybe just so he can get a little bit of track space and not leave himself vulnerable if he does encounter a bit of traffic.
I think maybe what we might see is drivers coming out at the end of the session to do either 2 consecutive laps or 1 push lap, 1 cool down lap, and then another push lap at the end of the session. There's still just about enough time to do that if they exit the pits now. And we do see quite a few drivers leaving the pits on their out laps, like Alex Gillen and Razin, for example. So they may be doing 2 consecutive laps, because obviously if you do 1 lap and then come back into the pits, you're putting extra laps on those tyres, so it's much better to go out maybe at the end of the session and do 2 consecutive laps, use the least amount of the tyres possible to give yourself the best chances. But they are leaving it late. For example, if somebody impedes them, or if they get a bit of damage, or if they just spin off and lose the time, they may run out of time in the session to set a lap. So they're playing it a bit risky, let's put it that way, as Team Marduk gets underway for their lap into the first sector. It's such a difficult turn 1 and turn 2 there. You're kind of hanging on for dear life and hoping that you don't touch the curb. If you do touch the curb, you are going wide, you are going out into the gravel trap or onto the grass.
First sector for Meraki. Well, I say good first sector, it's actually not a particularly good first sector because Dakovic absolutely blitzed it and Meraki was about a second down through the first part of the lap. So maybe just a warm-up lap, trying to get reacclimatised to the slick tyres. Which is another thing that we have to bear in mind. The likes of Cream 70, Dakovic, maybe they weren't fully up to speed yet back on the mediums compared to the intermediates that we ran in qualifying 1. So many different factors and dynamics that we have to think about in this qualifying session. It'll be interesting to see how Tim Marduk's going. I think he's going for a similar strategy, it has to be said, just trying to get a feel of how these medium tyres are going, just bringing them in, and then he can go for the bonsai lap with 4 minutes remaining.
Yeah, Maraki's looks a little bit perplexed. You can see it in his face that he doesn't really understand where that time went. But good news for him, he'll have another chance to either do a lap now at the end if he saved the battery, or just do a cooldown lap and go for it. Let's see. Oh, he's coming back into the pits. Okay, well, that's not something that I anticipated. That wasn't on my bingo cards. He's leaving it quite late in the session then to maybe just refuel. Maybe he didn't have enough fuel. That might be the factor. Team Marduk across the line again, as you said, just warming up. He is going around for another lap, so let's see if they can get the pace on board. Razin now on his lap, looking at the sector times. Yeah, he's backed up as well. So a lot of drivers struggling toward the end of the session. That is not good news for them.
100%. Alex Gillen still struggling full stop though, was 0.3 of a second down on Safso, who did temporarily have the fastest first sector. 0.3 the difference between two former champions, Season 1 champion versus Season 2 and Season X champion. Alex Gillen just continuing this lack of speed that he's struggling with at the moment. He was off pace, wasn't he, in Qatar a few weeks ago. He wasn't quite up to speed last week in Brazil either. Struggled in the wet in that Sauber car. Can he get the front end to bite? Looks a little bit reluctant to really go through the Casio triangle as he desires. Out of the far corner we come with Alex Gillen. What is the time going to be? It's a 29.4. Safso 28.7. The reigning champion is massively under the cosh here with just 2.5 minutes left to go.
Yeah, Grid Joke's going incredibly fast as well, and as I say that, he crosses line P2 just to emphasise the point. So Alex P9, this is very dangerous territory. We've seen this before. It's a little bit of deja vu for Alex, so he needs to put in a really good lap to him at Marduk. This is looking like a solid pace as well, so he has gone for another push lap, one after the other. Will it be the correct strategy? Going across the line, a little bit of oversteer and understeer there, and it puts him P6 on the cusp. I'm not sure if that's safe, really. Matt 212, another driver struggling. He might have just enough time to go around, do a cool down lap, and then go for another push lap.
Tim Marduk setting the exact same time as Kareem 70. Alex Gillen, that is not going to be good enough. That is 100% the case. Now down in position number 10, finding himself with a bit of deja vu going on. If we remember back to qualifying 1, he was on the bubble for pretty much the entirety of the first part of qualifying, and it could be, ironically, his teammate from 7 days ago. The drivers that collided going into the pit lane gave themselves 10-second penalties and pretty much ruined any chances of picking up some decent points. That does push him down into 11th place, albeit with 90 seconds to go. Razin Chai tracking nicely through the first sector, fastest in the middle sector by a couple of tenths as well. If he doesn't absolutely make a mess of this final Casio triangle, he should be lighting up the timing charts. Looked a little bit unstable at the rear a couple of times, almost pitches it into the pit wall, but he cuts the beam and does indeed go fastest despite the mistakes and the scruffy exit out of the final chicane. 28.1, Alex Gillen down to 11th, now 12th as Chappers slaps in a 28.6. Tim Marduk under pressure now as well, along with Kareem 70, who is cutting the beam with an improvement and takes himself away from the danger zone. 28.4 for the Season 9 champ.
Karim has done a blinder through that sector too. He is 2/10 clear on that alone. That is incredible, and that has made the difference there compared to Lolinoba. That is just mastery through the Degners and indeed through the hairpin section and all of that, mastering the turn-in and indeed the traction. And I think that will put a lot of drivers under pressure, knowing that they have to absolutely perform through the S bends, as you can see there, and we get on board now with grid jokes approaching the hairpin. Really difficult here because you turn in, you've got to get the brakes and not lock up. He does make the apex. There is a wider line that you can take there as well to attempt to get more speed. But yeah, the car's a bit iffy, is saying Razin throughout the last couple of turns. Probably the tyres just out of their comfortable temperature window. And with that second sector, I must say, maybe he did push them and overheat them a little bit, but it's worked out for him, let's say that.
100%. But the 3 championship protagonists all up against it. Tiamat Marduk's retired, doesn't feel he can go faster. 8th at the moment, only takes 3 drives to bump him out of qualifying. Meraki yet to get a slick time on the board either, currently 15th. And Alex Gillen, the reigning champion, languishing down in 12th. Razin into the pits, he's done fastest at the moment. Grid Jokes is 4th. Can he take that away from the Haas? Yes, he does. 28 flat for the Silver Arrow as he charges right to the top. Tiamat Marduk still in 8th at the moment as his former teammate Safso up into P3. The Aston Martin should be safe with that lap. Kareem into the pits and Alex Gillen is done. He's cut the beam and he's not improved. Alex Gillen is out in qualifying 2. Couldn't find the time when it mattered most. Matty D13 bumps Alex down a further spot into 13th. Both Saubers very much up against it at the moment. Tukey, currently the driver on the bubble, but not improving through Sector 1. Is, though, improving through Sector 2.
Yeah, a 39.4 for Alex in Sector 2. That's a second off the pace. He's made a mistake through there. Can Tukey get an improvement here? Is P10 on the cusp right now? Let us see across the line, the battery flashing. It's not going to be an improvement. Can Concept do anything about it? No. That leaves Meraki as the final driver across the line. What is it going to be? That is an improvement, but by how
P6,
much?
I think. P5.
P5. So he does make it through. And Alex Gillen, I think that leaves him in P15.
Slowest. Wow, wow, wow. Tiamat Marduk has his blushes spared there in 9th, but Alex Gillen, slowest in qualifying 2 and is knocked out along with Matty D13, Concept 7, Matt 212 and Tukey right at the last gasp with a buzzer beater from Meraki to kick out the Scarlet Ferrari car. Big shock there. Alex Gillen, we saw he wasn't quite up to speed in Q1, and that has transpired into P15 on the grid in Q2. Kieran, I don't think any of us were expecting that.
No, I was on board with his lap as he was making his way through Spoon. He said he had to send it. He was right to, but he sent it too hard into Spoon and went way off on the right-hand side. But yeah, he's saying himself, you know, this is what happens when you don't have a lot of practice. But yeah, he will be starting down in P15 and will be a bystander for Q3. A big shock there. And as you said, Ben very much spared his blushes there, just about made it through on the bubble. But yeah, Gillen, twice now he was sort of on the bubble. We saw he was on the bubble in Q1 and Q2, yeah, just didn't get Spoon right at all. So he'll be starting from P15. He'll watch on Q3. And now it comes to the point, and now it comes to the question of who could grab pole position. Tom, any changes from your prediction?
Razin looks quick. Razin looks really strong. He still thinks he can win this championship. Yes, he's a little bit far back. He's had a difficult couple of weeks, in particular 7 days ago at Brazil. If he can keep this rich vein of form, take pole position, try and take the win as well, at least get back onto the podium for the first time since round 2, that will set himself up nicely. But Lolly looks strong as well. It's these drivers that, there's that group that are 4th, 5th and 6th in the championship. Razin, Lolanoba and Datka Vince. All of them look pretty decent. All of them have a big opportunity to make a huge statement here with Alex Gillen down in 15th.
And John, just quick from you then, any changes to your pole position prediction?
Well, I kind of have to because Alex Gillen is out. So
same question still applies.
I mean, yeah, he was either P16 or P15. It didn't really make a difference. I have to say probably Lolanoba or Razin. So I'm going to go Lolanoba to not be boring. Let's put it that way. I think just his ability to get the best out of the tyres straight away is a big factor here. And when you're adapting again to another compound of tyres, that can have a huge pressure on other drivers. So hopefully that'll work out for him.
Well, without further ado then, Tom, John, take us through Q3 and let's find out who gets pole position.
Somebody that won't, the reigning champion, 15th in Q1, scraped through, but 15th again in Q2 means it's an early shower for Alex Gillen, and he will not get the luxury of using these red strap soft compound tyres in qualifying 3. Remember everybody, this is important as well. We are getting a lobby reset after this qualifying session, which means of course the soft tyres and the mediums and the intermediates, if they need them, will be handed back to the drivers for the race, which effectively means as well they can burn up as many sets as they possibly want to in this qualifying session. They don't have to use a used tyre run or do a used tyre run at some stage in this session. It's going to be unlikely we see 3 lap time set, let's be honest, because well, you're going to be really up against it to try and get that 3rd lap in. But 2 runs on 2 fresh set of soft compound tyres, absolutely flat out.
Yeah, they really have no excuse now to go out on a set of intermediates. They want to all be out on softs to get fully accustomed. The grip difference is just, disconcerting as a driver, for lack of a better word, when you turn in and then immediately you have the grip, immediately you have the confidence, and then it's all about just trying to work with that, trying to get yourself back up to pace. And we are going to see maybe a few drivers struggle from the get-go here, but in theory, seeing as most drivers put in practice for the qualifying laps on the soft tyres, everybody should be up to speed. Well, one person locking tyres, Razin being extremely aggressive, almost putting on the handbrake there into the hairpin. Will that cost him into Spoon? We'll have to wait and see. Lock up on the front right tyre, so it shouldn't be too bad. But he does make it through Spoon okay, carrying quite a bit of speed. If you get yourself over the curbs here, you can get yourself in a bit of trouble, but it looks like everything has worked itself out so far. Again, most of the drivers just going for a banker lap, I'd say, at this point. So the time's not too crucial unless you can get a really good one on the board. I tell you what, looking at Razin's time, this might be an early start to his bid for pole position.
On the back foot a little bit though, because Kareem 70 has smashed the first sector. Razin Chai 27.7. That is the benchmark. The gauntlet laid down, immediately eclipsed by our Italian stallion Lolanoba, who was 4/10 quicker in the final sector. Tim Malik, terrible middle sector, lost half a second to Lolanoba and Razin Chai down in 5th. Slowest of the times we've got so far. Maraki, championship leader, slots in between the RB and the lead pass of Razin Chai. Kareem 17 missing the first apex of the Castillo triangle. Is that going to cost him as he's pulling gears in that Alpine up to the line? 27.7 P3, and after that strong start for Kareem 70, another driver that really grappled for grip in the final sector. Lolanoba is 2/10 clear of anybody in the final sector, and the only driver within 4/10 is the one sat in P2.
Yeah, that is a solid lap time. I don't know exactly where they've got that time from, just probably keeping the tyres alive, but that is something that drivers will be perplexed about, and it stays in the back of your mind. When you look at the sector times, when you come back to the pit box, you think, hang on a minute, how did I lose 4/10 of a second on a sector which is effectively 2 corners and 2 long straights? It doesn't compute in your head, so it will be very, very tricky. Grid Jokes, another driver that has been very, very on form in terms of pace in qualifying laps, so let us see if Grid Jokes can get themselves out of P10, the only person to not set a lap time for the moment. But it's also encouraging to see everybody in the 128s at least. A lot of people at least just getting a sighter lap in. A bit of traffic here, a bit of dirty air manifesting itself. Grid Jokes across the line. It won't be good enough for the front row for the moment, but P4 means that at least it's a solid foundation to build on.
Incredibly close. Top 5 covered by just 2/10 of a second, and this is big for the championship as well, with the season 4 champ Meraki finding his A game once again. 12 Creator Series pole positions for Jake, and he'll be hoping that everybody else finds himself unlucky as he bumps that number up to 13. As we're halfway through the final part of qualifying, and it is Lolanoba making a late charge for the championship, currently sitting pretty on provisional pole, 0.08 of a second ahead of Meraki with Kareem 17 and Grid Jokes holding down, locking down the second row on the grid. Tim Malik under pressure had a terrible middle sector, lost half a second, 0.6 of a second to Razin Chai in the middle part of the lap. Got to tidy that one up. Dak Govins as well, detached a little bit at the back of the group, 28.6. He's going to have to find comfortably over half a second.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to find, really. Anybody in the 28s at this point has either made a mistake or is severely off the pace. Really. Just looking at the sector times, it is the case that there's just drivers making a mistake here and there. I'm not seeing any like super slow sector times. It's just maybe a lock up. For example, for Tiamat Marduk, it's literally sector 2 that has messed him up really. It's 0.5 of a second down, and that is essentially all of his lap time right there in sector 2. So just maybe getting a bit wide through the Degners or just locking up to the hairpin, and that is easily half a second. But when you've made a mistake once, it can become so easy to do it again and just settle yourself into a non-optimal rhythm. But yeah, it's going to be tricky for drivers that have been struggling all throughout qualifying. But in principle, if you've got yourself into the top 10, you're having a relatively good time in the day. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. They've still got 4 minutes, to call it 5 minutes, to get their last runs in. And we are seeing drivers activating now with 3 drivers on out laps.
It's interesting when you do delve into the sector times, because in sector 1 everybody's fairly evenly matched. Most drivers are in either the high 31s or the low 32s, the exception Ricky and Datkovins in 32.2, and then Kareem blitzing, acing that first sector with a 31.8, fastest of anybody. It's then the middle sector and the final sector where we see big separation gaps. Tiamat Marduk 0.6 of a second down, Datkovins 0.7 lost in that middle sector, and in the final sector nobody has been able to hold a candle to Lolanovi, the only driver in the 16s in that final sector, 0.2 faster than anybody else, as it is Safso, the season 1 champion, for the kick-off what might be his final flying lap in qualifying. Maybe a little bit more fuel in the back of that Aston Martin car just in case he makes a blunder on this first flying lap. Interesting use of the curb there going through the first part of the first couple of corners, because it can unsettle the car. We've now attacked with great confidence. You'll be hoping at least the sweeps of the first sector. Some of the best corners in the history of F1 now climbing up the hill through Dunlop. Don't want to dip a wheel in the gravel, and Safso choosing not to play with fire there on the exit of turn number 7. Are we improving as we head through the first part of Degners? Down by half a tenth and a little bit wide, just gets caught out by the curb at the inside of Degner 1.
Yeah, just I think that turn 2 use of the curb has been the difference in that time, and they really need a better sector 2, as you said. That's where the time is being lost. Will it be sort of a good time? I'm not sure. I saw a few sections where they were going a little bit wide, not clearly hitting the apex, although that is a solid attempt at spoon, that's for sure. Carrying the speed, early deployment of the battery, lovely stuff. It looks like it will be all right for Safso, maybe a good improvement. There's still also about, I'd say, 0.2 to find in the last sector. So into the Casio triangle here. Will it be a good end to the lap? Very, very nicely on the apex, braking perhaps a little bit early, I'd say there. Not getting on the curb on the exit and going the shortest route to the line is a 27.8 P6. Improvement by 0.2 of a second, but will it be enough to keep him in that midfield?
Improves by 0.2, but doesn't improve positionally, staying in P6 as things stand. Datkovins much better through the first sector. Needs to keep that up through the middle sector. Yes, 0.75 of a second up, but is 0.3 down on the benchmark through the middle part of the lap. If he can get into the high 27s, that'll maybe give him a chance of starting inside the top 6 or 7 places. Rotating nicely through the Casio triangle. Foot flat to the floor as the RB will cut the beam. They're bookending it at the moment, and it is only P7 for Datkovins. Does get into the high 27s with a good final sector, but still comfortably down on what his teammate can manage. Nobody seems to be finding the traction and the grip through the Casio triangle that Lolanova managed. Cream 17 down by half a tenth through sector 1.
Look how aggressive he was though through the Degners. That's impressive commitment there. Any snap of oversteer and you are immediately in trouble. You can see a difference with the confidence and the setup of the car, to be fair. For him, very sort of, I like to say a Max Verstappen-esque sort of setup applied to the car there, where you get it turned in, the rear rotates. As long as the front remains planted, you can get it through the turn. But will that pay dividends or not? Looking at the sector times, we're waiting to get a sector 2 time, and I think Karim's backed off.
See as we cut the beam to start the final sector, but yes, has
off.
Definitely backed off. It looked a little bit unstable, didn't it, going through the hairpin just as you come up the hill after the 2 Degners. So Karim backing out of that one, was already down through the first sector and leaving himself with a little bit more work to do, a little bit of heavy lifting going into the final part of qualifying. Watch for this man, Grid Jokes in the Silver Arrow, has looked absolutely rapid so far. Hasn't topped a qualifying session, I don't believe yet, but has been right in the thick of the action. If he can just extract those little few more tenths of performance out of himself and the Mercedes machinery that he sits inside, he'll be a great bet to start potentially on the front row and maybe from from provisional pole position as we head up through Dunlop Curve now and up towards the two Degners. Will it be an improvement for the Mercedes? Needs to try and find it if he's going to challenge the likes of Lonanoba and the championship leader. And it's a big first sector, 31.6. That is huge from Grid Jokes. A quarter of a second clear of anybody else already.
That is, wow, okay, now we are getting to crunch time, as they say, and people are bringing out the last cards that they have to play, and that is certainly one where you think to yourself, what are the other drivers thinking, looking at the sector times? Obviously, probably everybody out on track now, so they won't have a tracking of those sector times unless people in their chat are actively telling them that, but that is a statement to make toward the end of the session. Might have, no, it's too far back to have a slipstream, but this is looking like a stellar lap from Grid Jokes. Will it be enough, though?
Purple, as things stand, just has to negotiate the Casio triangle. The Mercedes riding the curbs absolutely beautifully around the final corner. Should smash the benchmark out of the park, and by a third of a second, Grid Jokes takes over at the front of the field. Kareem 70 again struggling to get the car to bite through the final chicane. Will it be an improvement? Was down through sector 1 and through sector 2. Does find a little bit in the final sector, but it's third place at best. Safso found improvement again. Still only 5th place on a 27.7. Razin Chai fastest in the middle sector. Tim McMardick 7th only for the former two-time champ. Razin Chai to the front row with a late lap there, but still a 10th down. Can Lonanoba find the speed? Does he have anything left in the RB? The answer is no, and it is still only 3rd. What can the championship leader do, though? Chapper's round in the final corner. He's up into 6th place in the Scarlet Ferrari car. Meraki is up by just under a 10.5, but unless this final sector is absolutely out of this world from the championship leader, it will not be pole position, and it will be going to Brackley and to the Mercedes team, with Grid Jokes taking it ahead of Razin Chai. Meraki ran in the final corner, already ahead of his main rivals, and does pick up a couple of places to start from P3 on the grid. But it is Grid Jokes with an outstanding first sector that steals a march on his rivals.
Yeah, crucially, that third sector for Razin, he had everything in that one. He was set for pole, but it wasn't enough in that last one. So that means Grid Jokes qualifies on pole position, followed by Razin on the front row of the grid. Meraki, Lonanoba, P3 and 4 on the second row, with Karim probably a little bit disappointed in P5, to be fair. Chappers P6, Safso P7, Tim McMardick P8 will be very disappointed, with that guy Vince and Ricky rounding out the top 10. It's fascinating to see that the sector times have been dominated by 3 drivers. You had Grid Jokes, Razin, and Lonanoba with the different fastest purple sectors there. So a very mixed qualifying session, right?
That was great stuff. Grid Jokes on pole position there, as quoting him, Singapore on top. That was a great lap there in the Mercedes, and yeah, he's got the front row seat down towards turn 1, and turn 1 at Suzuka has had some interesting histories, let's just say that. Let's talk to a certain 1990s period. I can't think of a specific incident in mind, but hey, turn 1 at Suzuka always seems to be a couple of fireworks. It's downhill on entry, it's turn 1, it's a medium speed corner where you're not actually shaving a lot of speed off, especially in these cars in turn 1. It's turn 2 you start to go down the gears, Tom. So that makes for a bit of an interesting first corner, especially because after that you've got the S's.
People will be desperate to try and make up places because it's the first opportunity they'll really get until maybe the braking for the hairpin. But the caveat is you've got to be careful of the curves through turn 1 and 2. We saw from Safso, his second attempt in Q3, just put his front right tyre on the very inside of the curb, and it got all wobbly, got unstable, and just lost him a little bit of time. And when you're battling so hard and you have to take out a part of the circuit, the apex of the corner effectively, just limits the racetrack even more and implies or imposes an even bigger squeeze on the drivers that are battling so hard.
It does indeed, and yeah, it'll be a race start to keep all our eyes on. Luckily, we've got you, Tom, and we've also got John. John, what did you make of that qualifying session, and what's the run down to Suzuka turn 1 really like? You know, what are our drivers going to be thinking, especially those who are right slap bang in the midfield?
I think the sort of wild card of the tyres threw a lot of drivers off in the qualifying sessions. Whether it was adapting to a tyre or just finding the sweet spot, maybe even drivers, as I said, making a setup adjustment that really didn't pay off toward the end on the soft tyres. It might have just jumbled things up, and that means, as we've said, that overtaking is going to be actually a priority. For example, for Alex Gillen and a few other drivers at the back of the pack. But, there's a few opportunities with obviously DRS, and there's quite a few curbs where you can lose traction, for example, and leave yourself vulnerable. But a bit like Kimi Raikkonen in 2005, the best opportunity is probably round the outside in turn 1. But such a difficult corner, especially at the start, with multiple lines converging quite literally into one line for turn 2. I think it will be played out on strategy, and we've seen quite a few races and quite a few championship deciders where strategy has played out in, well, just drivers having the pace and then losing it right at the end to team decisions. The drivers only have themselves to blame here in the F1 game because they make their own decisions, but it means that the extra pressure is out, and toward the end of the season, that can really throw a spanner in the works. We've got a lot of spanners in the works today.
A lot of spanners, absolutely. I mean, that's just not, we're not talking about just me, by the way. But the point is, the qualifying has done its best to really mix up the grid. And Razin, as one of the championship protagonists, has really taken to this really, really well. Starts second place, just behind Gridjokes in that Haas. I mean, all eyes are on him down towards turn 1. Is he going to go for that risky move down the inside of Gridjokes, or perhaps he's going to wait for a little bit later on in the lap there, Tom?
I think he can afford to be patient. We know he's got the pace and the consistency. What we have to say about Gridjokes is this is a foreign position for him to be in the Creator Series. Yes, we've seen how quick he is, but he hasn't taken a pole position before. Will he be a little bit flighty? Will he be a little bit nervous on that run into turn number 1? Does Razin Chai want to get embroiled in that, considering he does still have a championship to fight for? So I don't think he needs to be on the money straight away, does Razin. Obviously, you don't want to drop behind the likes of Jake and Lolly and Cream because they are going to be hard to pass. Razin's just got to keep his wits about him. He knows that he can play the long game, though.
And John, coming into this then, talks of maybe 1 stop or 2 stop. I mean, this is Creator Series. A safety car really isn't that far away. But Japan sometimes likes to throw us a curveball in terms of strategy then. Drivers maybe trying to avoid the soft tyres. They had they use the 2 sets if they wanted to in that qualifying session. Of course, we're going through a bit of a lobby reset at the moment. So everyone's now just migrating from the qualifying lobby now over to the race lobby. But what can we expect in terms of strategy coming into today?
Yeah, it's going to really depend on where you are on track. If you're stuck behind a driver, you will have no choice but to go for maybe a 2-stop strategy, depending on safety car, obviously. A lot of the strategy of this race is not getting stuck behind a slower driver on a faster set of tires. Say, for example, somebody's on the mediums, you start on the softs, you need to get past them really quickly. So whether we'll see some drivers at the front starting on, for example, the soft compound to try and pull away into the distance just to create that safety zone, that safety buffer for a safety car, we'll have to wait and see. But essentially, it's just going to be about reacting to what you see around you. I can see maybe a few drivers going for a 1-stop for sure, but I think at some point a lot of drivers will be tempted to go for the 2-stop just to force other drivers onto a different strategy and force them to react, basically.
Well, Gareth Allen, I know he's the master of multitasking. He's doing 2 things at once here, but can we get, I think he said that we've got updated standings, including the extra point for Lolinova. There he is. That, ask and you shall receive. There's the updated points then. Lolinova getting that extra bonus point for that Inter's pole position now brings him on to 73 points. But just a reminder, this is how it all looks heading into today's Japanese Grand Prix in the Creator Series. This is a massive opportunity for Razin to really drag himself back into this title bout.
Yeah, for sure. And putting himself P1 there after the previous races, you kind of have to just play it cautiously now for Meraki. He's in quite a good position. Timo Marduk starting P8, if I remember correctly. Alex Gillen starting P15. So, if you look just at points, all Meraki has to do is have a clean, consistent race. But, I mean, we know how it works in Creator Series. You want to do that. And caution can end up being really bad for you. It can end up just leading to other drivers basically not taking you out of the race, but forcing you perhaps off track because they have nothing to lose and they know that you have something to lose. So for Meraki, he's in a good position, but not an enviable position as well, because he's a target and everybody is gunning for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And a word on Meraki as well was that, yes, he had a quiet race out in Brazil, but still ended up with a podium. Even he was surprised about that one. But I'm delighted to say we're going to focus our attention with an interview with the pole sitter in Grid Jokes. Grid Jokes, welcome along. You said Singapore on top. I was watching your stream as you said it. What about that for a lap?
Yeah, but it was probably because of the car.
Oh, no, it's all driver. It's all driver talent, Grid Jokes. How are you feeling then? Pole position, Japanese Grand Prix, with probably the most notoriously difficult turns 1 and 2, probably on the entire calendar.
Yeah, I guess I just had to focus on getting a start and not wheel spinning as much and keeping Lolly behind because he's really fast and he did take Interspole from me, so he'll be quite the challenge to keep behind.
He's got that point on you, Grid Jokes, but you've got that pole position as well. I mean, you've got Razin right behind you as well. He was within 2/100ths of a second of you. I mean, you're going to have him breathing down your neck in towards turn 1. Not to sort of put you under any pressure whatsoever, but I think that's a first pole position for you in the Creator Series. That's a landmark for you.
No, it's actually a second. I got
Oh,
one
there you
like
go.
2 seasons ago. Yeah, in the Mercedes as well.
See, I've not updated my notes. I'm a fraud. There we go. But Grid Jokes is not the fraud. He's put it on pole position. Well, talk us through Suzuka then, because this is a car underneath you that seems to really like this. You managed to grab that pole position. How are you feeling heading into the race today?
Honestly, Suzuka isn't really a strong track, but I just like the flow of Sector 1, and the hairpin is also quite a challenging corner, but I like the challenge. It flows quite well, and when the setup's right, the track really is just amazing to drive.
We were also talking in the pre-show about how qualifying was so crucial here because you've only got the one DRSO down towards turns 1 and 2, down that start-finish straight. Elsewhere, there's not very many overtaking opportunities. The fact you put it on pole position, you've surely got one foot in front of the other at this point.
Yeah, but I think tire management is also like a key factor, especially in this game, because tire wear really does affect a lot of things. So the strategy will be interesting, whether you want to do a 1 or 2 stop to have a tire advantage or not.
And of course, pole position for you. Where's a good finishing position for you in the race? I mean, the obvious answer is a race win, but what's your target for today?
I guess just top 3. I won't expect too much, because I have some fast guys right behind me chasing me down, and who knows, maybe some crazy things will happen.
It's the
So
Creator
I'll
Series.
just hope for a podium. Yeah.
It's Creator Series. Always something crazy happens, Grid Jokes. Well, hopefully we get to see you on display and hopefully get that podium. Grid Jokes will let you get ready for the race. Thank you so much for chatting to us and good luck
Thank
in
you.
the race. Singapore on top then in Japan. And, well, it's a great lap from Grid Jokes. He said himself it's probably due to the car. I refute that. That was definitely all driver skill. Hey, Tom.
He's always been a really decent qualifier. Obviously, he's not started this high before, but I don't think that's too out of the blue to see that Grid Jokes is starting from pole position, especially considering he's in a Mercedes, which should be fairly decent around this circuit. Obviously, like he alluded to, the big question mark is how many positions can he hold on to? Because now he's the one that has a target on his back. He's got championship protagonists chasing him down, trying to pick up as many points as he possibly can. And how is he going to deal with being in this position for the first time in the Creator Series? It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, he's going to be the chase down towards turn 1 and 2. We've already talked about how notoriously difficult it can be. There's not really a braking zone into a turn 1, John, but you know, is he going to have his eyes on the mirrors with 19 others swarming behind him down towards turn 1?
Well, there's not an opportunity to overtake necessarily down into turn 1, but the main problem is there's not necessarily an opportunity to get away either, because that sector 3, and especially with the DRS zone in the pit straight, it just means that anybody can just use the slipstream to get back on pace with you. And so definitely through the first stint, I think probably Grid Jokes will just try and defend the position and just try and keep the opportunity open for any strategy that might happen. It depends what tire you start on as well, because we talk about the car a lot, but you have to drive it to put it on pole. So he's done a good job driving, let's put it that way. But also, if you choose the wrong strategy of tires, you open yourself up to well, disastrous consequences if, for example, a safety car comes too soon, or indeed if you just find yourself with bad traction off the line.
Tom, we obviously saw that in that qualifying session, not to bring it up again, but Alex Gillen starting P15. He's got a lot on his plate to really recover what could be a massive points deficit this late on into the season. But over the Alex Gillen, I know he'll pop up with a result, but what do you expect from him today?
This isn't the first time he's been towards the back of the grid. Remember in Mexico, qualified 16th, won the race and won it pretty comfortably as well. He's also been 17th, he's been 15th this season as well. So qualifying hasn't necessarily been his strong suit, especially in that Sauber car. He has struggled a little bit for one-lap pace. It's the race pace where we see the consistency, the race IQ and the racecraft from Alex Gillen really come to the fruition, and the strategy as well, one of the best when it comes to making the calls strategy-wise. So I would not be surprised. Maybe it might take him a little bit of time to work his way through, but we'll get to lap 2025, and I think we might be seeing Alex Gillen just interloping inside the top 5.
We heard Vince, well, at least I heard Vince John say that qualifying was a bitterly disappointing. He was really disappointed with the lap he put in, made it into the top 10. But as someone who's, got that outside chance and chasing down a place within that top, what how does that affect your mentality when you come off not a bad lap or a not so great lap in qualifying? How does that affect you going into the race start?
Well, with his experience, it shouldn't affect him too much. The best drivers can reset, can just go, okay, it didn't work out, but the race is a different thing. You're starting with fuel, the balance will be different. Perhaps it's their time to shine. Obviously, when you look at the sector times, when you're having a difficulty getting consistent lap times in, it's just one sector every single time where the pace just failed. That's not too bad because the pace is there and you can just go for it.
Well, the Japanese Grand Prix in the Creator Series is almost upon us, so let's run you through the grid of today's Grand Prix.
Wow. Beautiful Suzuka in the background, the cherry blossoms fluttering, and we will take a look at the starting grid as we load into our 53-lap race. Lenz the Goat, second appearance this season, but qualifying on the back row. Super Noodle Bagel also returning, but he joins the McLaren right at the back of the grid. Just in front of the Jorik van Geffer. Remember, a winner in the Creator Series previously. The Monaco Master can't quite get up to standards here in Suzuka, and he's got the second McLaren, the lead McLaren of Chesnor again with the company in 17th. Two big guns starting on row 8 in Fratic. The 5th time he's qualified in the bottom 5 places so far this season, and Alex Gillen starting from 15th for the second time this season. They've got a hell of a lot of work to do to work their way forward. Matty D13, worst qualifying of the season for him, and Concept 7, a bit of a bump back down to earth after his pole position and some very decent performances in recent weeks over one lap. Just ahead of those two, Matt 212 starting to find the groove in the Creator Series, but missed out on the top 10, and Tukey was ever so close to making it into the final part of qualifying, just getting bumped right at the last gasp by the championship leader. Riccio 3 made a mess of his final lap in Q3, so we'll go from 10th position. Datkavitz is the best average qualifier in Season 11 this season, but this is his worst qualifying since round number 1 in Baku. Two former teammates, Phil, row number 4. Tim Mardik down in 8th with his main championship rival on the front row. Needs to have a very good start. And Safso looking cool as ever there in the green machine. Chappers continues to consistently perform well in qualifying. And he's got a resurgent Cream 70 starting alongside him in P5. And the two drivers in front of them have to make mincemeat of the drivers on the front row. Lonanova looked like the favourite for pole, but didn't quite have the legs at the end of Q2. And it's Meraki starting from P3, chasing that championship for the second time. And then on the front row, Razin Chai starting from second, and it is Grid Joke. One appearance so far in the Creator Series this season, one pole position to his name. Well. The grid is almost set. We can see the pit lane of this stunning Suzuka circuit. Expect fireworks, everybody, in the land of the rising sun. This should be very, very good. Championship protagonists littered all over the grid, from 3rd to 8th back to 15th. A lot of them have got a lot of work to do to get themselves back into contention. But at Suzuka, it might be a track that's hard to overtake, but you can certainly expect the unexpected, can't you, John?
Yeah, looking at the tyre selections then here, we've got an interesting start on the grid because Grid Jokes is starting on the medium tyres, but everybody behind him, well, at least the very fast runners, apart from Karim, I must say, starting on the soft compound tyres. So he's going to have a really tough time getting that excellent start to defend into turn 1. Starting on the outside as well. Oh, and I think he's also been reset to the grid, which is not ideal because the temperatures of the tyres are not good. It's not gone well for Grid Jokes, has it?
No, he's going to have 3 sharks swarming right behind him on those red striped soft compound tyres. Remember, with that lobby reset, everybody gets all of their tyres returned to their arsenal. So all of the tyres that you will see will not be scrub set. So Razin, Meraki rolling over on brand new soft compound tyres, and they're going to be looking to light up not just the starting blocks, but the first lap. And we can see there the Season 4 champion. We saw him smiling away in the bottom right-hand corner. Huge opportunity for him. Got back on the podium last week in Brazil for the first time in 4 races after a bit of a sticky patch as he found himself in Hasses and in Sauber cars that he wasn't getting along with, but has found his mojo once again. The qualifying P3 and be right in the thick of it with his 2 main rivals down the order. Timo Marlik starting from 8, Alex Gillen starting 15th on the hard compound tyres, trying to repeat the trick we saw from Mexico a few weeks ago, where he started 16th on the hard tyres and worked his way through to win the race on the alternate strategy. Kareem 17, nice to see him back at the sharp end. It's been 3 weeks now since Kareem has been, well, really back where he belongs. Had a strong run out in Qatar, but ultimately fell on the wrong side of misfortune. First in the sprint race and second in the main in Brazil 7 days ago, and now qualifying P5 and very much setting himself up for a strong Japanese Grand Prix.
Hang on a minute, Alex is doing the F1 movie tactic of just waiting for everybody else to do their lap and then warming up the tyres here. I see, Alex, I know what's up. But that's a bold strategy, seeing as a lot of people have been reset to grid, so he might actually have a tyre temperature advantage going into the first couple of turns, which could prove decisive to get at least a little just boost in terms of positions. But it's all about carving through the pack, because on the hard tyres you might have a tiny bit of advantage. We're about to find out, aren't we?
100% about cutting through the pack, but at the first glance the drivers are going to be thinking about where to hit the loud pedal and then where to let go of it on the run down into turn number 1. It can get a little bit sketchy with Gridjoke's first ever pole position starting from the front. Razin Chai alongside him. We are racing for the Japanese Grand Prix. Mercedes versus Haas, but the soft tyre runner of Razin Chai flying away off the grid, and Gridjokes is tumbling, falling through the pack already. Through goes Meraki, through goes Lolanova, and the Mercedes is bundled off the track as Kareem 17 helps himself, lapping that one up on a silver platter, and now through goes Timo Marlik as well, ending his race drought 7 days ago and adding even more misery to Gridjokes, the pole sitter, down in P6. And we haven't even finished the first sector of this 53-lap race. Good start for Alex Gillen, couple of places made up into 13th for the Kick Sauber. For Razin Chai, that was absolutely picture book perfect as his main rival didn't get off the starting blocks.
I think Gridjokes had a setting one there. The battery was recharging into turn 1, so I don't think any deployment was happening there, and that's led to a loss of 5 places. That is terrible news as Matt212 trying to go round the outside of Tukey as the 2 Ferraris nearly get tangled up. Alex making a move right now with challenging Ricky for position. Can he get it round the outside? No, not quite. And the tyres just being, again, that reset to grid, the tyre temperatures playing havoc for Gridjokes there. I think he just realised the futility of trying to defend that position and just got swarmed in any case. But look at the gap. Razin outside of DRS range from Meraki. So Razin taking a storm to this first lap right now. Everybody is just wanting to remain in that gap, as realistically after turn 1, at least the front of the field has remained in the positions, as we can see Timo Marlik getting a huge run there with Gridjokes dropping 5 spots.
Yeah, great start from Ben, up from 8th into 5th, and that is what he needed with Alex Gillen down the order and Meraki currently holding 2nd. Here comes the Scarlet Ferrari of Chaps, and they're looking to double team the Aston Martin of Sasso, grappling for grip on the hard tyres. Through goes the first of them, Tukey dangling the nose of that red and white car down the inside into turn number 2, but eventually the white flag is the one that's raised by the 2nd Ferrari and holding station in position number 10. Ahead of Matt212, Ricky 03 and Alex Gillen, who's made up a couple of spots, but look at this, Matt212 trying to make most of those soft tyres in the early stages. Big wobble there for Tukey on the run up towards Dunlop corner now, under huge pressure, under the microscope from the Mercedes and from the Alpine as well. Surely we're not going to try it around the outside of Degner 1. That would be unwise, I would suggest, from Matt212, but it's Tukey Tony Hawking it over the curb, taking a trip into the gravel, and all of that hard work to hold firm in 10th position now thrown into the bin as he tumbles to the back of the pack.
Yeah, I think there might be a little bit of wing damage there as well. We had also a spin from Lens the Goat. No wing damage there for Tuki. Got away with that. Very, very lucky. But yeah, in the first sector, Lens the Goat was possibly spun around or had at least some form of contact to go off the roads there. So challenging to the Yora to the inside and is forced Matty onto the curb. That is a great bit of driving there, just strategic to just force the issue. And that means you're up to P14 behind his teammate Infratic, who is trying to chase down Alex Gillen. And that is one of the biggest stories here, is that the hard tyres have not been too bad at the start of the race. Saying I survived. Yes, that is, we've seen quite a few incidents there, including Lewis Hamilton. I think back in 2010 that had a huge... Oh, hang on a minute. Meraki getting challenged for P2. Lonanova thought about it round the outside. Just didn't have the overspeed. Oh, the tag of the tyre. Still defending into turn 3. Turn 4 shuts the door. Lonanova getting very aggressive, deciding that he thinks he has more pace than Meraki at the moment. He might be struggling in these first 2 sectors. But look at that as well. Razin not getting away like we predicted.
100%. And the defensive shape thrown not once but twice by the championship leader, desperately clinging on to second place and trying to cling on to the coattails of Razin Chai in front as that gap continues to hover around 9/10 to a second. Lonanova with a poor run through the second Degner, potentially leaving himself vulnerable to a Kareem 17 dive down into the hairpin. But the Alpine not quite close enough to make any real impression on that occasion, and we're seeing the struggles and the trials and tribulations of Gridjoke continue. Nearly now is a second and a half off the back of Tiamat Marduk, and with Dak Gavin sternly examining the rear geometry of that Mercedes.
Meraki struggling with understeer here. You can see it mid-apex, especially into the hairpin. He just couldn't get any rotation in whatsoever. And that guy Vince looking to get the recovery drive. Again, we were mentioning him after qualifying. This is where he needs to get the confidence back. He needs to make the moves, get the job done, and just maybe get in clean air to rebuild the confidence. As we said, the pace is there. The sector times were there. The braking is most definitely there as he closes up to Gridjokes. That was a super late braking right there. And he will have the utmost opportunity with the DRS now wide open to get the move done on Gridjokes. Gridjokes is deploying the battery. You can see it. The straight line speed is good, but not good enough for the DRS advantage. And that's a 2-car length advantage. He takes an easy overtake there. And Max 212 moving up the order. Safso suffering on those hard tyres. He's been the best of the starters on the hard tyres, although Alex has made up positions where Safso has dropped down the order. But still, a good position to be in, to be honest. If Safso can get pulled along by the soft compound runners or even the medium compound runners, then he could be in a good position later on in the race.
Yeah, really interesting because the soft tyres do look very, very strong at this stage, and 5 of the top 6 currently running on the red striped rubber, with the exception being Kareem 17. He's doing a very, very good job to keep himself in contention on those mediums that do look second best for the soft tyres at this stage of the race. Of course, we will see the transition in act in just a few laps' time, where Kareem will just start fancying his chances, maybe thinking about picking up a couple of spots and just putting a move on Lonanova, Meraki and Razin Chai and making their lives harder than they would want. Luckily for Gridjokes, he has managed to stem the flow and is nearly 3 seconds clear of the lead Ferrari of Chappers, who's got Mac 212, who's charging through the field at the moment. Started 12th on the soft tyres, but now holding 9th place with Mac 212 having best Creator Series finish last week when he took 6th in Interlagos, driving the Papaya McLaren car. It's a different Mercedes engine car this week. Mercedes works car, but he's hoping to use to good effect as well. 7/10 the margin between Razin and Meraki. The Saudi did get pretty close on the previous lap down into turn number 1 and does have a decent lick of straight line speed, but already you can see the drivers trying to get out of the slipstream and in turn the turbulent air to keep the tyres and crucially the engine temperatures as low as they possibly can.
Yeah, a lot of the gaps are hovering around 7/10 of a second. That's about as close as you can get without draining the battery. And that does mean that quite a few drivers are in danger of dropping outside of DRS. We saw Alex Gillen just a lap ago nearly losing DRS, but now he's firmly back in the slipstream of Ricky. Same for Safso. He's hovering around that 9/10 of a second gap, which is just putting you under so much pressure. Oh, Meraki, the huge slide, nearly doing what Tuki did and getting a Tony Hawk's moment over the curb, but he gets away with it and still remains in that P2. Lock up, I think, for Razin that we saw just there. So the tyres may be getting a little bit uncomfortable in terms of temperature. And most importantly, for him in P4, I mean, he's in the best position at the moment. He could just sit tight and wait for these soft compound tyres to go off and put himself in the best position. Must be said, for that guy Vince, although he's got past Gridjokes, he needs to get the hammer down and really catch up to Tiamat Marduk, because this front train might end up pulling away in the early stages of the race, while these soft tires are still relatively good. But as we can see, Razin probably saving battery as well, just waiting for the counter-attack from everybody behind him. Bad corner though from Meraki. That might put him under pressure into turn 1, but Razin hasn't got the traction either.
Yeah, he could be under pressure here for the first time in the race, Razin, as the gap continues to decrease at the start of lap number 6. But I don't think the championship leader is thinking about the move into turn number 1. We get a firm arch, although he almost takes a nibble out of the rear end of that Haas car through turn 2. Kareem 70 has been able to sit so close, glued to the rear end of the Italian stallion of Lolanova in the battle for 3rd and 4th. That tells me he's definitely got a little bit more pace and, importantly, confidence in his back pocket. So when we do see the full transition from the softs to the mediums as the best race tyre, Kareem's going to be very, very racing desperate, you would say, to try and get past these cars and give himself a nice buffer as he tries to make the most of what will become the best compound. As Lolanova there, not a particularly good run through Degner 2, but again, I don't think Kareem is close enough to make a lunge down to the hairpin, and he does not. Picture in picture, you can see in the bottom right there, that is Infratic, who's made a decent start from 16th up to 13th, but he's got Alex Gill in the car in front of him, and then it's Safso just grappling for grip on the hard compound tyres, and for Fabio, he's finding himself behind 2 drivers, but if you're going to make an overtake, it's going to have to be a good one.
Yeah, one driver that's in trouble is Infratic's teammate Joritz, who is 1.2 seconds down at the moment, so no DRS range, still on the soft tyres as well. So, really struggling for pace out there for the moment. So will we see Meraki make a move here? And then battery flashing would indicate that he wouldn't go for it. But in the background there, you can see that Tiamat Marduk is getting challenged by that guy Vince. Tiamat Marduk has dropped off in pace a little bit here and has possibly made a mistake, maybe through Spoon. And that has divided this grid at this front into 2 separate trains now, as we see that is a challenge for the lead, and that is Meraki going all the way around the outside, the battery flashing, and I think Razin deployed battery just to keep it side by side. It will be enough to just barely keep the front wing alongside, to force Meraki to leave the space, to leave the gap. They're fighting it still. No driver wants to give up. They are leaving millimeters to spare. What masterful driving. Lolanova gets the popcorn out, but Razin is still challenging it up the inside, and that means that Karim nearly challenged for P3 as well. Everybody focusing on other drivers and leaving the gaps open, and wow, what a battle we have just seen. Meraki and Razin, round of applause for that fighting. Super clean, super respectful, and oh so exciting to watch.
It looks all over the place here though, Razin. Maybe he's cooked those rear tyres, because that's the 3rd or 4th time he's really struggled to get the power down, and massively under the microscope. Now is incredible racing, very respectful as well, between Razin and Jake in the first sector. Eventually Razin sending it down the inside into Degner 1, forcing Meraki's hand and saying, you're going to have to get out of this one, mate. And Meraki very much played ball, and at the same time as Kareem challenging around the outside into Degner 1 as well, but he didn't fancy that one. And this has spared the blushes very much of Tiamat Marduk, bringing it back into fray. Lolanova senses an opportunity. He smells blood. It's the inside to the outside of the Casio triangle, and he's pocket pinched the championship lead, and Meraki bumped down into 2nd place out of absolutely nowhere. Now could be at the mercy of Kareem 70 as well. Those medium tyres starting to sing, but this the Italian stallion galloping around the outside into turn number 1. Lolanova taking his opportunity as it presented itself to him, and he now leads the Japanese Grand Prix. Kareem 70 making a blunder into turn number 1, had the opportunity to relegate Jake down a further spot, but fell off the road and has to stay in P4 ahead of Tiamat Marduk, Datgovitz and Gridjokes, back into what is now a 7-car lead DRS train.
I'll tell you what, yeah, that's helped out Tiamat Marduk, hasn't it? Ben has really been given a wild card there to bring himself back within DRS range. We'll say, Karim probably just got caught up in being in a little bit of spectator mode of the front 3 there. He had multiple opportunities but couldn't make it stick. I must say, for Razin Meraki, probably overheating the tyres there with the battle, and that just left them vulnerable to an attack, and Lolanova just seized that opportunity and went with it, and it has worked a treat for the moment. As you can see, we've got the tyres up there. So the hard compound run is actually struggling a little bit more and not making up position. Safso has dropped another position down to P10, but Alex is up to P11, so overtaking Ricky in the past couple of laps there. So Alex probably in a good position at the moment, but I'm sure he will have wanted to make up a few positions, as he's also outside of DRS for the moment. So quite a few people sizing up attacks here again into the last couple of turns, and that was nearly a collision between Meraki and Razin. Once again, Razin not really there on the apex speed, and that can leave him once again vulnerable into turn 1.
The back of that Haas looks incredibly loose. Meraki, is he close enough to challenge down into turn number 1? The answer is no. Kareem17 definitely feeling like he's getting held up, getting hobbled, as those medium tyres definitely the primary compound at this stage of the stint as we start lap number 9, looking stronger and stronger. We're hearing the team of Marlon, the reason he lost the time in the middle sector a couple of laps ago was because he was paused, letting his girlfriend back in, and that just shows you how slow the paused AI is on this game and why you want to avoid it as much as you possibly can. But he has managed to get himself back into contention courtesy of that epic battle we saw firstly between Razin and Meraki, and then between Razin and Lodenobu, that has got our famous Italian, our lead Italian in the championship, into the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix, and just trying to extend his legs a little bit, stretch his legs at the front of the pack. 3/4 of a second the gap between himself and the season 4 champion. 4 champions filling the top 5 spaces. This is Creator Series, everybody. One of the other champions, Alex Gillen, like you said, just struggling to make progress at this stage on the hard compound tyres, but playing the long game, as we saw in Mexico 3 weeks ago. The race will come to Alex Gillen, you would imagine, if we can extract the pace that we know he's got in his locker.
Yeah, for sure. It's all caution sector 2. That's all. The McLarens are having a disaster class. Lenz is spun around. I think that's in Degner 2, probably on the curb once again. So yeah, the McLarens with Chesnoid behind him as well. They've done an extra pit stop, probably to just repair some damage and to get fresh tyres on in anticipation of safety car, but it's not going their way today. It's Karim once again getting superior traction off of the last turn. And I can leave Meraki vulnerable, no battery being deployed though, so everybody line astern for the moment. Bridgeoak's not much to lose here, to be honest, attacking that guy Vince. The pace hasn't been there in the opening bit of the race, but again, as long as you're in this front pack, you're in contention, you have not really too much to worry about this stage of the race. It's for everybody else to attack, and here we can see Concept finally. The hard compound tyres seeming to be just alive at this point compared to the soft tyres, and the York is really under pressure at the moment. But yeah, an overtake through the first sector, nigh on impossible unless you're on like alongside into turn 1, as we saw with Meraki and Razin. So yeah, it's just going to have to be patient, and that's the thing, is you can get caught out strategy-wise here if you take too long to overtake drivers.
Fastest man on track at the moment, the reigning champion, Alex Gillen, faster than the leaders comfortably on the previous lap as those hard tyres continue to get closer to the optimal working window. The problem is he's 8 seconds off the lead. Now that's not too much at this stage, less than the second lap that he's been leaking in the first 10 of this Japanese Grand Prix, but he's going to have to make up that time later on as Concept finally manages to muscle his way past the Williams of Jurek Van Geffen. Doesn't even need the braking zone of the Spoon Curve, albeit this battle is just for the lowly 16th and 17th places, with the two McLarens having an absolute papaya mess in 19th and 20th. Feels like Baku, feels like the Kota sprint all over again for the Woking outfit. Now Meraki closer to Razin coming out of the Casio triangle, but that Haas looks to have fairly decent straight line speed and can just keep the championship leader very much at arm's length on the run down into turn number 1. 2 different lines there as well. Interesting to see through turns 1 and 2. The other Sauber on the move. Alex Gillen getting ahead of Safso. Season 1 champion versus Season 2 champion. And the Sauber, I think, is just going to put one over on the green machine of the Aston Martin car. And that is Safso bumped down into P11 after starting from 7th as he continues to grapple for great and a little bit of pace on his set of hard tyres.
Yeah, well, for Safso, this can be a blessing in disguise, because it can use Alex to sort of bring him along pace-wise and maybe close up to the drivers in front. I think Alex just has a little bit more pace at this stage of the race and could easily revert around. Razin using lower wings, apparently, according to Meraki. It would make sense. We have seen quite a few times where Razin has been struggling for apex speed, but you know, there's an easy way of saying, well, it's the only way you can get overtakes done, to have lower wings. So the strategic versus the tactical mind right there working. We have to, it remains to be seen which strategy will be the best. But I will say also that Razin looks a little bit complacent at the moment into turn 1. There is an opportunity for someone to throw the car up the inside because he takes a wider line, and he might be very, very vulnerable. In fact, talking about that, Karim got great traction there. This might be the best opportunity yet to get up into that P3.
needs to make moves here, Kareem, if he's going to make the most of those medium compound tyres, because while everybody else is getting the rubbish tyre out of the way in the first stint, Kareem using up what we imagine is going to be a stronger compound as Chappers getting ahead of Matt 212. Been a really strong first stint for the second Mercedes of Matt, but I think those soft tyres just starting to wane and air ever so slightly, and the Ferrari back up into 8th position after starting from P6. Difficult first lap for Chappers, similar to what we saw from Grid Joke, but both of them managed to arrest the slide and now running in 7th and 8th positions respectively, with Alex Gillen just holding down P10 at the moment. A further 2.5 back. Tim and Malik saying what we're all thinking, really, just a little bit stuck. Kareem can't get close enough coming out of the Casio triangle. Can't work one over on Meraki to get up into 3rd place. You feel like once one overtake's going to be made, that is where we're going to see the dominoes start to fall. Either with drivers starting into the pit to get a fresh set of boots on, or we're going to start to see somebody maybe just start to fall away.
Yeah, well, when you make an overtake, you sort of create like a traffic jam. That is it's off in Degner 2. Once again, I think the curb might have played an issue there, but that is so disappointing because he was still up with him, frantic and fighting for position. Those soft tyres may be at the end of their life right now, and that might have played some part in it, at least with the understeer. As we can see, Kareem still attacking. Meraki has dropped off here and is in danger of losing DRS this lap. So this is crunch time for Meraki. Will we see a pit stop? I dare say we will probably see one if the DRS is lost, but for the moment it's okay. Kareem still will have to probably give it another lap. Yeah, Meraki draining the battery just to make sure he gets back in. And we do have a pit stop. It's that guy Vince.
Vince the first to bite the bullet and get rid of those soft compound tyres. You can see there, Kareem, the frustration on his face. Just couldn't get the grip and the traction that he desired out of the Casio triangle, allowing Meraki to be comfortable on the run down into turn number 1. The straight line speed figures as well. The Sauber is quicker than the Alpine in a straight line, which is also going to be to the detriment of the Season 5 champion. But you can see he's got so much more grip, courtesy of how closely he can follow, not just through the S's, but through the middle sector as well. And is Jake still very much under the cosh here, grappling to stay within 1 second of the duo in front. Tim Malik has been quiet ever since he's got back into this, happy just to sit and watch and wait and see what happens in front of him. With Grid Jokes now in 6th place on the medium tyres, maybe he'll start to make a couple of moves in the coming few laps.
Patience is the name of the game right now, because he's on the better tyres. Let's make it very short like that. But if you lose a front wing or an end plate or whatever, you mitigate that advantage instantly. So that guy Vince, difficult stint again, probably not very happy with the way things have gone. A bit like in qualifying, but now with a different set of tyres and indeed some clean air, perhaps this is the chance to at least get a better position on the road. I'll have to wait and see. Kareem still, I don't think close enough. No, just not managing to get that apex rotation through the Casio triangle. And Meraki has been very strong toward the end section of the lap, and that has just meant that he's been able to maintain position where perhaps he should have already been overtaken by Kareem on his better tyres. Tim McMardock, I think, is just sat here just conserving tyres, probably aiming to go an extra lap than the cars in front, realising that an undercut will only put him at a disadvantage this stage in the race for later on, effectively. As Matt's still stuck behind Chappers, who's lost 3 seconds now to that front train, and that is a gap that is sizable now, with Alex as well looking right there in the picture to get onto the back of these two and hopefully get an overtake as well.
And the undercut is a really interesting point of discussion, because nobody's responded to the punch pulled by Dakar Vince on the previous lap. He's in a lovely load of clean air, with 7 seconds behind Super Leo Vega when he came out of the pits. Max now dropped down to 5.5 seconds, and he can really work away now at the gap. Remember, Vince was still very much in this lead DRS train. Yes, he was towards the back of it, but he can make 2 or 3 seconds at least up with this undercut. He is going to have the track position over the guys that he was racing. The trade-off, of course, is that he is going to be on worse tyres. Now to bring into pits earlier again for the final stint. Is this the opportunity that Kareem 17 has been smelling and waiting for? Meraki doesn't look to defend the inside, but Kareem 17 on the flip side of it doesn't fancy it down the inside into the Casio triangle. We saw numerous times in qualifying, Kareem was always deep into the first part of the Casio triangle, putting him off kilter and meaning that his run through the second part was always compromised. And I think we're just seeing that again. 2.5 tenths of a second the gap. Does he think about it into turn 1, gaining all the time? Can he make the move into 2? Just a little bit wobbly the front of that Alpine car, as he was desperately looking for the smallest space that he could fit an Alpine Formula 1 car alongside the Sauber, but the gap did not present itself, and it is still 4th place.
Oh, that was seat of your pants stuff, as they say. Edge of your seat in another language that you could use. But I must say, looking at the sector times, it is true. Kareem losing 1/10 of a second and not losing 1/10 of a second into Degner, that's for sure. I thought we might see a small overtake there, but no, it's not happening for the moment. Maybe a chance into the hairpin. He is close enough, but Razin is close enough to Lolanoba to put some pressure on as well. Meraki there, still P3, so no overtake attempted, but you can see how close Kareem is in terms of traction. But yeah, that third sector for Kareem is just not happening through the Casio Triangle. He's losing on average 1/10 to 2/10, and that is the gap that you need to get alongside into turn 1. As very wide is Tiamat Marduk trying to get, I think, the best run off of Spoon, but that nearly had Bridge Oaks into the diffuser and spun around there. So a lot of drivers, I think, just getting a little bit relaxed in the position that they're in. One person not getting relaxed right now is Kareem. He's up the inside. This will be an overtake. Very nicely done using the battery. I think Meraki decided the futility of that to try and drain the battery. It was on the cards right there. Tiamat Marduk having a huge snap of oversteer as well. This will be very vulnerable to Bridge Oaks. The battery draining, and there's nothing left in the tank. Bridge Oaks has nowhere to go though.
Can't quite get close enough. We know the slipstream's not the strongest on the F125 game, as Alex Gillen making up places, the reigning champion, getting ahead of the Ferrari of Chappers into position number 8 now, as Enfratic getting shot of his soft compound tyres. Got to keep it ahead of the Ferrari through the S's of the first set. Gillen was just a little bit wide there, and Chappers sensing maybe the smallest of opportunities to get back ahead of the Sal, but that did not come to fruition. But for Kareem 70, we feel like that's maybe 10 laps too late, considering how long he's been staring at the back of the car. The drive that's been holding 3rd position finally can now try and make an impression on Razin Chai and Lolanoba, but we feel maybe it's just a little bit too late for him to get the best out of those medium tyres.
Yeah, at this stage of the race, any advantage is a huge factor here. And just looking at the times at the moment, that guy Vince has reached crunch time as well, as he's got his first driver to overtake on track, and that is Super Noodle Bagel in just, well, hopefully this lap for that guy Vince, because Super Noodle Bagel is on very old tyres now at this point, so he'll be losing a lot of time compared to the pace of that guy Vince. So it's oh so crucial to just get past immediately and keep using those tyres, because again, the offset in strategy now is quite consequential to this lead pack that still hasn't pitted. That guy Vince was at the back of this pack, and into the pits we have Kareem and that's Meraki and Razin. Sorry.
It's just Razin, I believe, just the Haas of Razin, who we saw, it looked like he'd cooked the rear soft tyres maybe 10 laps ago. Now fancy get out of it and doesn't want to waste any time battling Kareem 17. But that guy Vince in clean air has been about 2 seconds a lap faster than that leading group of 6 cars. Alex Gillen's up into 6th place now, and only 4.5 seconds off the back of the leading quintet. And that's going to be interesting as this race continues to develop. But Datka Vince is going to be ahead of Razin Chai. The question is, what is the gap? It's not too sizable. It's about 2 seconds separating the RB and the Haas car, but crucially there is a Red Bull Racing car in between them that Raz is going to have to follow through this first sector.
Yeah, Datka Vince hasn't worked out for him really. The gap would probably want to be around 5 seconds at this point. But I think what I saw was Tiamat Marduk having a huge snap of oversteer out of the last turn, and it looks like he was following Razin into the pits. So yeah, luckily for Tiamat Marduk, he's still out there. But he's lost DRS though this lap, potentially. So that is, here we go, Razin looking to get the overtake done. This is what you have to do. You have to drain the battery, you have to go for it. And that is a crucial overtake if Razin wants to use the best of these tyres. He will probably close up to that guy Vince. The pace has looked decidedly in the favour of Razin at the moment between the two, and that might be an overtake for Grid Jokes in the planning, as Tiamat Marduk has indeed lost the DRS. Will we see a pit stop? No, Tiamat Marduk stays out, but yeah, he's not even draining the battery.
Yeah, you can see there's not a lot of rear grip for that Haas car, but the race leader reacting to Razin Chai there, and the drivers that were 1 and 2 are now going to throw themselves back into the pack. Grid Jokes does get ahead of Tiamat Marduk on the medium tyres, up into 3rd as Green 17 takes over the net race lead. Chappers and McAdoo also fancying their chances of getting on a fresh set of boots. Datka Vince's fastest lap of the race. Very good first sector for himself. Where is Lolanoba going to be spat out of the pits? It's right into the path of the Season 5 champion. The Haas charging around the outside of turn number 1 and just putting the Italian stallion in his back pocket. And that undercut has given Razin Chai the track position over over the RB car, with Datkovitz a further 2 seconds up the road.
Yeah, just want to point out, Datkovitz hadn't been setting fastest laps of the race up until that point, so I'm not exactly sure what's gone on there. Maybe the tyres just not suiting him or making a few mistakes, but indeed, if the pace now sort of ramps up, this could be a good strategy to be on. The tyres are a bit older than the people behind now, with Razin and Lolanova just having pitted, but there's still a cards to be played here. Gridjokes finally using those medium tyres to great effect, but Meraki has dropped 2 seconds off of the back of Karim, who is on the medium tyres. So this is a gap that now Gridjokes will have to close by himself. Will we see Meraki into the pits? I imagine so. And you can see Alex Gillen as well, only 2 seconds off of the back of Tiamat Marduk as well. So there's a lot to be played. Meraki stays out. Meraki carries on 17-lap old tyres, and so does Tiamat Marduk.
Gillen setting personal bests, really bringing himself back into play here as Gridjokes pushes the championship leader down into position number 3. Karim 17 also was only 2/10 slower than Alex Gillen on the previous lap. In fact, identical lap times for Karim 17 and Alex Gillen on the previous lap, but they were comfortably over a second quicker than Meraki and then Tiamat Marduk. And Razin Chai, well, he was even faster there. Fastest lap of the race for him. But this is Lolanova battling away into turn 1. Is there the space for the Haas up the inside into 2? I think Lolly backs out of that, and a bit of a jink over from the Season 5 champion as well. Maybe just to make his intentions clear. Looked a little bit scrappy there, but all's well that ends well. And Razin Chai does keep track position ahead of Lolanova, with that gap to Datkovitz still hovering around 1.5 seconds as the lead RB car starting to catch his next bit of traffic, the Aston Martin of Concept 7. Gridjokes has taken a couple of tenths out of Karim 17's lead, but those two drivers out in front marching very, very quickly away from Meraki and Tiamat Marduk.
Just like in qualifying, Lolanova has an electric last sector that is 3/10 clear of everybody right now in terms of pace. So Lolanova have that sort of potential of knowing that they can just close in at the end of the lap to put themselves in a good position to overtake, and that is a huge advantage to have. And yeah, Razin is quite happy still defending the position, but you know, he's got to be a little bit worried seeing how, I mean, look at the gap. There is no gap really. Lolanova just has everything in his advantage right now, including the tyres. Look how late they can brake. It's ridiculous, and that just puts them at a position to attack, although Razin does get a good exit this time, so probably not too vulnerable, although Razin doesn't have the DRS, does he? Tuki in the pits, so that's another car they won't have to overtake. Razin to the Lolanova to the inside, and that's a clean overtake. Razin having nothing to respond, and even a late braking into the corner and nearly losing the car.
Nearly threw it into the wall there, which would not have been ideal at all. Lolly looks like he's running very low wings, because that must explain the pace that he's got. That run out of spoon down to the braking zone of the Casio Triangle, he is absolutely rapid. At the moment, this is Alex Gillen update. He's only a second off the back of Tiamat Marduk. If you consider that the 3 main championship protagonists, one was 3rd, one was 8th, one was 15th on the grid. They're now running line astern in 3rd, 4th and 5th, and Alex Gillen really coming to the forefront here as those hard tyres working very, very nicely for him. I think he knows that he's getting himself into a very strong position. Only 5 seconds off Karim 17 at this stage, Alex Gillen.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, Alex has really played the patient game, has really just used the tyres to the best of his ability, and I think maybe after the qualifying there was just a mental reset there, saying, well, we got not much to lose, we got to go for it to remain in championship contention. And so starting on those hard tyres, while it's a bit risky, if there's no safety car, it does actually pay dividends as well, because now there is a little bit of strategic leverage that you can use, as Matt gets a 10-second penalty into the pits. He was doing a good job in the midfield there, but that is going to be a nail in the strategy there, as he will not serve the penalty right now. And doing some overtakes here, Concept has got absolutely mugged by that guy Vince and Lolanova, I think, in the same turn there. So Lolanova making a huge move and huge pace, as he's already caught that guy Vince. And Razin has not been able to catch Concept in the same corner, and that means he's going to have to follow probably until sector 3.
Really clinical there from Lolly. It was a 50-50 send down the inside, but he made sure he got it 100% right to follow in the footsteps of his teammate and just apply the pressure once again to Razin Chaif. He's going to stick with these two RB cars. Has to be clinical. Does the Haas car and does. You seeing a little bit of battery and into the hairpin. Does get ahead of the Aston Martin of Concept 7, who is yet to stop still in the first 21 laps of this Japanese Grand Prix. And that means he could just try and stay with those two RB cars in front. But Lolo Noble looks absolutely rapido at this stage of the race, flying on his brand new set of medium tyres. Fastest lap of the race, and by some distance as well, 6/10 quicker than anybody else has managed. We've got to watch out for our Italian stallion because he's absolutely flying, as is Alex Gillen, fancying it around the outside into the Casio triangle. Timo Malik late into the first part of it. Compromised run through the second part. Isn't going to dive into the pits as himself and Meraki continue to extend this soft tyre stint. But after starting from P15, Alex Gillen will be delighted to see that Tim McMardock is now behind him.
You have to assume that the soft compound runners that are still out there are going for a one-stop strategy now. And they've done a really good job of just maintaining the tyres, to be fair, as that guy Vince has been overtaken by Lolanoba now. So Lolanoba has the clean air. Razin, crucially, is within DRS as, it looks like Concept has been dropped. Those hard compound tyres, although they're very durable, they just don't have the pace of a fresh set of mediums. But this is a strategic question mark at the moment for all of the drivers. Some people already probably committing to a two-stop, but for the front drivers at the moment, the possibilities are all out there, and still no possibility of a safety car, not really any incidents happening on track. So I think a few drivers, tandem drifting there by that guy Vincent Razin. Razin nearly lost it completely into the hairpin, but they've managed to at least keep it all on track. But you'd love to see everybody pushing, at least creating a show out there, that's for sure.
But look at that, they're about to get dropped by Lolanoba, who is still charging and charging at some rate of knots. And Dak Gavins, this is going to be code red here if he drops out of the 1 second window, because he's definitely going to fall behind Razin Chaif if that happens, having to burn a little bit of battery just to stay in touch with his teammate in front, who looks to be in a different stratosphere pace-wise. Remember, Dak Gavins did go for the undercut. He got himself this track position. The trade-off is he's on 6-lap older tyres as Meraki bites the bullet and dives into the pits. The championship leader getting off those soft compound tyres. Decent stint for the Sauber car as Lolanoba punches in another purple lap time. Dak Gavins, I think, has just about still got the DRS, although it's touch and go. Razin's going to fly past. I don't think he did have the DRS there, Vince. And now he's going to go wide through turn one. So just grappling for grip at this stage is the second RB of Vince. And Razin Chai's got to get his toe down here to keep tabs on Lolanoba in front. Another driver going nicely is our new race leader of Grid Jokes. Is about half a second a lap quicker than Cream 17, and now ahead of the Alpine as Meraki renews his spoils on the racetrack in position number 12. Ben has just been overtaken by Safso as well into the hairpin.
Yeah, a lot of moves happening, and those tyres, those soft compound tyres, are really dropping off a cliff right now in terms of pace. Safto has done a good job on those hard compound tyres as well to follow Alex Gillen. We have a yellow, it's a McLaren off. I think that's Chesnoid, or is it Lenz? I think it might be Lenz that has gone off through Spoon. Just in front of the leaders, actually. You'll see him in a minute as the leaders will catch him. So the McLaren's not having a good day, that's for sure. Papaya will not be a colour on the step of the podium today, that's for sure. But Grid Jokes still doing a good job out there. And I think just Karim is in an awkward position right now because he hasn't used the tyres, as he said earlier, and he's kind of stuck really just trying to get the best out of a compromised scenario in terms of the strategy. And I think, he's got a lot of work to do, let's put it that way. Oh, Karim to the inside, just going for the DRS overtake. Didn't expect that one, to be fair.
Well, what I would say is Grid Jokes is still quicker than Alex Gillen at this stage of the race. It's touch and go as Tim McMardock finally putting those soft compound tyres to rest. He's going to strap on what I believe will be the medium tyres. That is what Meraki bolted on, currently running in 12th. It is the yellow stripe medium tyres for the former two-time Creator Series champion, going for back-to-back race wins. Looks like he is going to be a little bit of a tall order. And Tim McMardock, that has not worked out at all. Not only is he behind Meraki, but there's 3 other cars in between himself and his main championship rival. Tuki in the Ferrari, Matt 2 on 2 with a 10-second penalty in the Mercedes, and Ricciardo 3 in the Alpine. That is going to be a tall order for Ben to try and work his way through the traffic and pick them off one by one.
Yeah, not ideal, because with Meraki sort of being a a very strong contender in that pack in front of him. Doesn't really have the opportunity to close in on that guy Vince, on Razin, on Lolanoba. So these three drivers here, Lolanoba, especially Lolanoba and Razin, maybe a bit less that guy Vince because he's been dropped outside of DRS right now, as you can see clearly visually now. Yeah, that really just puts a spanner in the works, and overtakes are going to happen aplenty probably, but you've got only a few laps to do it. You've got the fresh tyres, you've got the confidence, you have to go for it. And there's such a strong probability of losing an end plate or losing a part of your wing that, yeah, let's make sure we don't get stuck here yet. So Tim McMarvick forced to take risks, I guess.
Absolutely crucial. Needs to work his way through the traffic. Datka Vince said he didn't have the pace, has been dropped by his teammate and Razin Chai to the tune of 2.2 seconds at this stage. Somebody that we haven't mentioned for a while that has done a really good job of recovering this race is Infratic. 4 of the drivers that have pitted so far ahead of Chappers, ahead by 5 seconds of Meraki, Tim McMarvick and Matt 212 as well. With the strategy, the undercut and some clean air, Fabio's done a great job of getting himself back into the fray after this terrible qualifying starting 16th.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how he's done that because he only had 1 lap undercut on Razin. So, yeah, that is impressive. Very, very impressive. And
Razin's off through the
Not
first
ideal.
Degner, taking a bit of a bumpy ride there through the gravel and bringing quite a lot of it. You can see the gravel tracks onto the circuit. That was a bit of a Code Brown moment, wasn't it, for the Season 5 champion? First real mistake we've seen from him so far this race, and that definitely would have put his eyes on stalks as he flew off into the gravel there, and is very lucky, A, to keep it out of the wall, and B, to keep it within 1 second of the cars in front.
yeah, I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. I thought that would be an easy Degner 1 for him. I was looking at sector times, to be honest, while that was happening. And that was a Code Brown moment. That could have been very bad. You're quite correct in that. But I think actually he realised what was happening and he didn't want to get on the curb, so he just went into the gravel instead and then just cut back across onto the track. Probably quite smart to do that, to be fair. But it does mean he's lost a bit of time, although he's still somehow within DRS of Lolanoba. So to be fair, it hasn't worked out too bad for him, has it?
Has got some really strong pace. We have to say that as well. Safso, 4th place. Yet to stop so far in this race. Might be bumped down to 5th as Lolly using the battery and the straight line speed he's got in that RB car and does get up into 4th position. Lolanoba, remember, is the net race leader as the McLaren gets out of the way. The gap between Lolly and Gridjo is currently sat at around 7 seconds. Here is Infratic. Pace is decent. Just a shame he started down in P16. We're seeing that from Fabio. He's only 7 seconds off the back of Datka Vince, 10 seconds off the back of Razin, 10 seconds, sorry, off the back of Razin. That's about what it's been for the whole race, so I would agree with him there. Got some really strong pace, and if there's a late race safety car, could find himself moving through the field very nicely. This is Razin getting balked behind the Aston Martin of Saf, so we've seen this once, we've seen it twice, we're now going to see it thrice coming out of the second Degner, and Razin Chai once again having to be clinical with his overtakes, and clinical is the word he looks up in the dictionary, but crucially, 1.3 seconds the gap between himself and Lolanoba now.
Yeah, catching Alex Gillen as well as this group. And I think from Infratic, that's an interesting statement to make, really, because I know Infratic sometimes just has a bit of a head loss toward the second half of the race if things haven't been going their way. And saying that to yourself, that, oh, it would have been better if I started in a different position, it's kind of like, is a mental block, really. You just have to say, okay, fine, but there's half of the race to go. I've made a decent recovery, the pace is there, I can do something with this race. But unless you're in that mindset, and unless you're in that frame of mind to actually keep pushing and move forward, sometimes it can just play against you. No way Lolanoba's going to attempt it from this far back, but you could see the temptation from Lolanoba. To be fair, looking at his battery, he's got nothing left in the tank. He has to spend at least half a lap recharging that battery. To be fair, Alex's pace is not that bad, to be honest, so at this stage just slotting in behind for maybe half a lap is not too detrimental. Gridjokes and Karim are not lapping faster than Alex. It's about the same pace. They're in very low 33s, just not dipping into the 32s. So yeah, there's about 2 seconds on the cards between Lolanoba and the front 3. But basically, Lolanoba is net lead racer anyway, so all he has to do is maintain position. What it will do, though, is bring Razin back into play, as he is once again within DRS range.
Yeah, and that's a really important point because the gap got out to 2.2 seconds. And what happened to Razin on the previous lap, where he was balked behind an Aston Martin, dropped himself miles off the back of Lolly, gave Lolly a bit of breathing space. Now, the shoe is very much on the other foot, and Alex Gillen holding back the Italian stallion, and Razin brought back into the same ballpark. I think we probably want to get past him as soon as he possibly can. That might be before we get to 130R. What is he going to do? He's going to move over to the inside. Gillen obviously will not fight this, not in the same race one bit. And Lolly does get through. What this is going to do now, though, is it's going to give Alex Gillen some DRS going down the main straight, of course, unless the reigning champion dives into the pits to get rid of those hard compound tyres that don't look like a particularly good compound, it has to be said, as Cream 17 dives into the pits to get rid of his medium tyres. Interesting to note what tyres he'll bolt on for the second half of this race, but here's the treatment being served out again. This time it's going to be Razin that has to follow Alex Gillen round through the first sector, and Lolly again giving an opportunity to jump off into the distance.
Yeah, I think that was intentional from Lolanoba. He saw the opportunity as we have Tiamat Marduk with the fastest lap of the race. The only person right now in the 130s, so a 30.9. The times are getting faster and faster. And you can see how much that's holding up. Matt 212 and Tiamat Marduk fighting. So that is why the DRS helping with that pace as well. And Tiamat Marduk has made the move stick for the moment. Again, Matt 212 on those hard compound tyres. You can see there with the understeer. It's just a little bit of maybe too hard a compound to be on for this race. But then again, Alex has made it work quite well. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, to be honest. And it does open up the strategy if there is a safety car. So do you want to play it cautious? Do you want to play it aggressive? That is up to the drivers, as they say.
100%. I said it on the previous app. Those hard tyres, coincidentally the compound Cream 17 has just bolted on, don't look like a great compound. Alex Gillen at no stage in this stint has been faster than Grid Jokes, who of course started on the medium tyre. So that's going to be interesting to see how much progress Cream 17 can make in the second half of this Grand Prix. Grid Jokes still yet to stop, has done half distance on the mediums. He'll be thinking about maybe transitioning to the soft tyres for the second stage of this race, as Alex Gillen getting shot of those hard compound tyres. It should be mediums to the end, but he has held Razin Chai back. He's now 2 seconds again off the back of Lolanoba. Matt 212 trying to stick with Tiamat Marduk, who he may have found himself in a sticky spot with the way he came out of the pits, but he has still got very, very strong pace in that Haas car. The only problem is he's having to pick his way through the traffic one by one as Meraki and Cream 17 can shoot off into the distance. There's Alex Gillen, the flash of lime green coming down pit road, but he is going to rejoin behind the Alpine of Ricky 03, and I don't think it's going to be too long until Tiamat Marduk and Alex Gillen find themselves crossing paths once again in this Japanese Grand Prix. Grid Jokes your leader, but I think for a bit of a mid-race recap and a potential look ahead to the future of this Japanese Grand Prix, I think we should hand you back over to the wonderful Kieran McGinley to give us a taste of what he's been seeing, not just from the paddock, but also joining us in the commentary box. Kieran.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I've just been really listening into the radio waves. They've been really interesting to hear from drivers' points of view. It's really interesting to have 12, 13, 14 streams up at the same time. It has been a lot of fun regardless. Infratic, actually, he was disappointed where he started, but he's got an encouraging amount of pace underneath him. He's encouraged by that as well, as Kareem just passes Concept there out on track. Kareem was thinking, say, 10, 15 laps ago, this could be a two-stopper. But he did say the medium tyres starting on them was worth the risk. Now he's on the hard tyres. He should be able to get them to the end. He wasn't happy with his tyre wear. That's the reason he's gone back out on hard rather than stayed out on the soft tyres, or at least pitted for some soft tyres. As Safso comes into the pit, Skillen was a bit worried about that potential safety car undercut that Safso would have over him, but that has dissipated. There's a huge battle in the background there. I think that's Kareem Tuki and Tiamat Marduk all trying to make their way through. Then was adamant that he had not to get stuck. He was adamant that he wasn't going to get stuck behind in the traffic. And he's up into the top 10 now, and Tuki just up ahead of him. So it's really intriguing to see. And yeah, I was going to say Yorit as well. Good to see him on the grid. He struggled today. Of course, he went into the wall early on. I didn't quite see what happened to him, but I saw he laughed it off anyway. That's just Yorit. That's just what he does. But it's interesting to see these top guys. They're really trying to figure out which is going to be the best strategy. Some questioning, others some questioning why the medium tyres went as far as they did, because then it really gives them a bit of a halfway house between trying to make the hard tyres work, but are they going to be quick enough, and making the soft tyres work, which will be quick enough, but only for about 6 or 7 laps. So intriguing to see. Gillen is adamant, well, he's saying his strategy is working as well. he's very happy with how his race is going on from his side. He's rejoining us at a medium tyre, so he should be looking to get up some positions later on. Infratic there, still, as I'm watching on with him, I think he's developed into this race. He's grown and grown into this race. He started quite negative. Now he's really getting that positive vibe going. He's up the positions. He's really trying to make this work. I just say that just through Spoon. He's just picked up a track limits warning, but he's on a set of medium tyres and he's looking very good indeed. We'll see what he can do towards the end of this race. As you see now, this is how I'm slightly behind, but it's okay. I'm running 13, 14 streams at a time. That's probably why. Kareem there, he was also adamant that he's got to make sure this strategy works. These hard tyres will definitely get him to the end, but he's just got to make sure that offset of any new medium tyres and any new soft tyres towards the end is making sure he counteracts that. Gillen has had to do a lot of overtaking today, a lot of management on the hard tyres, I should say, he started on. They were absolutely stone cold in that race when he went to the grid. The outer, the surface temperature was great. The internal temperature of the tyres was absolutely ice cold. So he had to do a lot of work over the last couple of laps in that first stint to make sure the tyres were up to temperature. Now that he has, he's very happy with his strategy. He definitely says he's chosen the right strategy. But Grid Jokes are leading the way then and looking to see what he can do towards this stage. Lolling over second place. Good amount of pace from the Italian stallion. Razin was giving him a really good time then. They had great battles through and towards turns 1 and 2. In the end, Razin tried the move, he tried that up and under, but he said Lolinova, he saw that coming the second time and did very well defending it. And now Lolinova has opened up a 2.3 second gap. That guy, Vince, he's also one to watch out for. He doesn't feel confident about his pace in this stage, and he started off with a difficult stint in his own words, but he's currently in 4th place. We'll see what he can do. But that's really it from me up and down the paddock. I'll keep an eye on all the storylines as and when they happen.
Well, thank you very much, Kieran, for that one. I think I share your thoughts there. This could be a very interesting one. The way the strategy battle is going to unfold in the second stanza of this race will be very, very interesting. Concept 7 into the pits for the first time, 30 laps on his hard compound tyres. Grid Jokes continues to soldier on out in front, 31 laps on his set of medium tyres. That'll be good information for the drivers that pitted early off the softs that are trying to get to the end on the yellow stripe compound. Interestingly for Tim at Marduk, I wonder if he's maybe just missed a trick here, because he's put himself in an identical race pretty much with Alex Gillen and on worse tyres, and he has just got caught up, held up in this traffic of cars that have already pitted. He is being undercut by the two Ferraris, by, well, effectively Kareem 17, you could say, by Matt 212. So it's a difficult situation for Ben to be in. I find it unlikely at this stage to say that he is going to find himself going back to back and picking up another victory. The good thing for him in the championship, though, is that Alex Gillen's very much in the same boat after his poor qualifying, and Meraki's not so far up the road that it's going to be debilitating for his championship job.
Yeah, it's an interesting position with all of our leading championship drivers in the midfield. I mean, they're kind of stuck on alternate strategies, I want to say, that, only come to fruition if there is a safety car. But then again, the front of the pack would be helped by that as well. So we haven't seen really any incidents that are likely to create a safety car for the moment, although that does become more likely toward the end of the race when people start going for moves and start becoming a bit desperate to overtake. I will say, for Team at Marduk, it's very unfortunate they've just been stuck right there, as we do see Infratic under pressure from Meraki. I don't think Infratic will fight this one. Meraki has the much better tyres of the two, and you can see that in terms of apex speed. And it's just nonsensical to attempt to try and defend that, to be honest. You want to run your own race and maybe even use Meraki to just pull you along in terms of pace. But at this stage of the race, it's all still to play for. You've got 20 laps to make a difference. And if you have strong pace, I will say Kareem's pace on the harder compound tyres isn't disastrous. So, if everybody tries to stay out, for example, until the end of the race, then Kareem might have a big advantage toward the end.
Yeah, and you wonder, are the likes of Lolinova and Razin in particular 12 seconds up the road ahead of Datka Vince, Meraki, Infratic, Kareem 17, and then this train of cars behind the Lee Ferrari of Tuki? Can they go to the end? They've done 15 and 16 laps on their medium tyres. We've got another 20 to go. They'll take heart from the fact that Grid Jokes is going to do 33 laps at least on his set of medium tyres. So it's not unthinkable that Lolly and Razin could get these tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. The Mercedes is slightly better on its medium tyres, on its tyres in general, than the RB and the Haas, as Grid Jokes, as we say. That does dive into the pits. And for our pole sitter, after a terrible start to the race, it's fair to say, has done a very, very commendable job once he got going in that stint. Was very, very quick on old medium tyres, and that's given himself an opportunity to battle for a podium, maybe even a race win. Dakovic also into the pits for his second and final stop of this race. Will it be soft tyres or will it be mediums? He's got some fresh soft tyres in his back pocket, but I think it's the medium tyres. As Tim McMahon continues to pick his way through the traffic, got past one Ferrari on the previous lap, now does the double, getting ahead of Tukey, with Alex Gillen now interloping between the two Scarlet cars as well. Gillen definitely going to the end of the race. Ben, you would imagine, he's also going to the end. 10 laps on his medium compact tyres, should be able to get those to the checkered flag.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's touch and go. That guy Vince has fitted anyway, so that sort of leaves that out of the question mark. I was going to say that just after you'd finished your very, very valid points, that's for sure. And for the front two now then, that leaves 36 and 37 laps to do on this set of tyres. I mean, when you see Grid Jokes did 33 laps and then they did call it quits, maybe it's a little bit too far. But then again, with the race fuel burning off throughout the race, it means that you don't overheat the tyres as much on your second or third stint. So it is technically possible, but will it be fast enough? Meraki is closing in, and you know, it is still 11 seconds, but if you're closing in at a rate of half a second, for example, then they can really play a blinder on the last few laps. You could see a Kimi Raikkonen versus Fisichella situation happen, in that the overtakes have to be done super late into the race. Karim needs to get past Infratic. This is a crucial overtake, and it looks like, once again, Infratic just running his own race, deciding to not deploy, to not hinder, and to just try and maximise the speed. However, fighting with Tukey and Tiermat Marduk, I think Tiermat Marduk just has been repassed, I think, by Tukey, if I'm correct, and Alex Gillen trying to get past as well. So yeah, all sorts of stuff happening at the moment in this midfield, and it's not helping either Alex or Ben, to be fair.
Yeah, hold your horses, everybody. Tim McMahon and Alex Gillen are fighting over the same piece of tarmac. And remember back on F1 23, these two had a bit of a tete-a-tete, a bit of a run-in down into turn number one, fighting for the lead of the race at this very circuit. Car in the gravel, I believe that is the Williams of Infratic making a mistake through the second segment, although it might be Jorrit van Geffen who's a lap down, getting out of the way of the cars in front. And yes, it is Jorrit van Geffen who's been picking up 10-second penalties for ignoring yellow flags, like they've been going out of fashion, to be honest, in this race. I think he's up to 30 seconds worth of penalties for blue flags in this race, has Jorrit. So Tukey back up into sixth, ahead of Ben, who is now under the microscope from his old sparring partner Alex Gillen behind. And look at this, Grid Jokes on the soft compound tyre. Watch out for him in the back half of this race. He's going to be absolutely rapid. And if Lolonoba and Razin Chai are trying to get to the end, what's the gap? It's about 20 seconds between the RB and the Mercedes. Grid Jokes should be right on the gearbox of those leaders come the end of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's a fast turn of pace, let's put it that way. And with the soft compound tyres, you're leaving, well, other drivers are leaving themselves very vulnerable. And Alex looking to get the move on Ben. Ben was just saying on the team radio there, he doesn't think he's got the pace, so he thought, oh, 3 wide, no way, it is going to go 3 wide. Tukey leaves the space, Tukey gets pushed out wide, Tiermat Marduk very aggressive. Alex will just slot into the space that has been left. But wow, what avoiding from Tukey. That could have been disastrous for all three drivers. They raced it fairly enough. There wasn't really a way to be totally fair in there. We do have a yellow flag thrown out, and that is indeed a safety car deployed. Something has happened. What has happened?
Who is it? I'm not sure. I'm trying to find out who it is, but I don't know. And that is going to eradicate. Is it Jorrit again who's thrown it off the road? Been getting acquainted very much so with the grass and the gravel around the Suzuka circuit, but that throws everything up in the air. That is not good news for Grid Jokes. I don't think he'll stop under this safety car, considering he's only got 2 laps on the soft compound tyres, but that eradicates his tyre advantage over the leaders that he's been trying to catch. And well, just going back to that battle into turn number one, I think Alex Gillen was smart there, because I was wincing as they were 3 wide down into turn number one. Tukey backing out of it, Alex Gillen getting out of it as well, and then picking up the pieces as the Ferrari fell off the circuit. Ben, opportunistic as ever, picked up both of those spots and holding P6. This is beautiful as well for Infratic. 20 laps on his medium tyres, touch and go whether he could get them to the end. That would have to be a 38-lap stint for the Williams driver. He can now strap on a fresh set of boots as well and maintain that spot inside, maybe not the top 5, because Grid Jokes will probably stay out here, but at least comfortably inside the top 10.
Yeah, indeed. It's just throwing a spanner in the works, and yet another one. I think the garages have run out of spanners to throw at this race. I think there's a lot of people coming into the pits, as you could imagine.
Version. Look
yeah,
at that. Soft tyres for
strategy,
Lolly,
Yeah,
mediums for Razin.
yeah, that is incredible, isn't it? I would have thought that you'd go on to the soft compound tires at this point, but do they have a fresh set of compound tire of soft tires? You know, the question has to be asked. Or are they just confident with the balance on the mediums? There's quite a few drivers that might be saying, I get a bit too much oversteer on the soft tires. Maybe I'll go mediums. So Karim on soft as well, as I don't think our telemetry has updated with tire compounds for the moment. But yeah, a lot of drivers going softs there. And you'd imagine that, well, Grid Jokes actually has gained neatly out of this. He will be on slightly older tires, but he's still in the mix at the front of the grid, as they say.
A lot of mediums. Meraki mediums, Infratic mediums, Tim McMardick mediums, Alex Gillen mediums. Tukey's put on hard tyres, so that's another bit of diversion there. Karim 17 4 can get reacquainted with Grid Jokes. I hope everybody, by the way, enjoyed the new safety car graphic. Gareth Allen has been absolutely dying to play that fuel. There's a lovely bit of work for himself behind the scenes, but that is not, I'm interested and I'm also happy to see that diversion. Some favouring the soft tyres. Grid Jokes pretty much had to stay out. His hand was forced. He pitted at the wrong time. If he could have extended those mediums another 3 laps, hindsight is of course a wonderful thing. He would definitely be probably in the lead of this race, although I say that he had been caught by Lolly and Razzie, so he'd probably be P3 anyway. So just ignore that waffle that I've said for the last 30 seconds. And we will swiftly move on. Datkovitz also staying out. He pitted 3 laps before the safety car was called. 3 laps on his medium tyres. Then you've got soft tyres for Chappers and Safso and for Riccio 3 with Matt 2 on 2 on the mediums, also serving his 10-second penalty that he picked up for speeding in the pits. Concept, the only other driver not on mediums, he's elected for the hard tyres. And this is Razin saying this is where you see the difference in the tyre deg. The RB is slightly better on its tyres than the Haas. The Mercedes is much better on its tyres than the RB and the Haas. So everybody, they're diverging on strategy, they're going to converge on pace.
Yeah, certainly so. And I still think Razin has a card to play here, then being on the harder compound compared to everybody else around him. Track position is so important. So I would say there's no point being in P2 on a soft set of tyres because you are going to be stuck. You're better off playing the different strategy and trying to get an advantage toward the end of the race. And I think Lon Nova has a little bit of a pace advantage as well. So you've just got to roll the dice and see what happens. They will have, I won't say Grid Jokes is going to be slow, but they will have a buffer in that Grid Jokes may not have the absolute pace on the tyres to mount an overtake. So it'll be interesting to see on this restart. Obviously, Infratic gaining hugely from that pit stop, that free pit stop, and I think maybe this is the chance for a mental reset. Okay, qualifying didn't go well. Okay, first bit of the race we were in recovery mode. Now we need to switch to attack mode and go for it.
Well, Fabio's in an absolutely rotten run of form, just 1 point in the last 4 Grand Prix. 15th at the fan vote in Qatar a couple of weeks ago, surrounded by 2 DNFs and a P16 in Mexico. So this is a nice return to form for Fabio, who, like I said, only 1 point. His last meaningful result was finishing 3rd in the Monaco Sprint. Remember back to that chaotic race in the F2 cars where we had our 2025 version of Car Park Corner going through Saint-Devote. There were very much heroics into Saint-Devote there between Chesnoy Gaming and Scotty Designs, by the way. The safety car will probably stay out for another lap as everybody catches up to the back of the snake. I think the point there, you mentioned about Infratic. I think Alex Gillen's going to be aggressive as well. His charge was called. He was very, very quick. Has the fastest lap of the race. Was rapid on his set of medium tyres. Now has to overtake all of the cars in front of him. Get himself reacquainted with Tim McMardick, of course, as well. And we've got all the championship protagonists fighting over the same piece of tarmac again. Meraki 5th, Ben 7th, Gillen 9th. They're definitely going to be converging in a couple of laps. And with fast cars surrounded by them as well, this could very much be carnage in the remaining 15 laps.
Yeah, one person that's lost out hugely here is actually Concept F1 down in P16 on that different strategy on the hard compound tyres. Hasn't made it work like Alex and Safso have, to be fair, and that is really disappointing for them. Grid Jokes will be an issue, maybe for Ryzen. Yeah, I think he's got a point, especially on the restart where you can't get the tyres fully up to temperature perhaps. and you're just waiting for everything to kick in. What is going on here with Concept dropping a
letting the lap
position?
cars through. I believe they're letting Lenz the Goat through. You can see the McLaren there, just in the middle of the Aston Martin and the Red Bull car. Remember, on this game, we don't have the feature where the lap cars can be let through, so you have to go off the circuit to make sure that they don't get an illegal overtake, as being demonstrated there by Matty 13 going through the S's of the first set. This might keep the safety car out for slightly longer. It could also cause a little bit of carnage, because well, if the safety car does come in at the end of this lap, I'm not 100% sure if Lenz will be able to wean his way all the way to the front of the train and then be allowed to overtake the safety car. So just keep an eye on that one. Watch that space very much. Championship-wise, we've mentioned Meraki, Ben and Gillen. Lolinover, sixth in the standings, 37 points off the back of the leaders. This would be a huge swing in his favour. Same for Razin as well. He's P5, 32 points back. If he can get the 25 points, plus maybe one for the cleanest driver, that's going to bring themselves right back into fray. Vince just struggling for pace a little bit. We could be back to a 5-car championship scrap.
Yeah, indeed. It's throwing just curveballs at this point in terms of the points, and it definitely doesn't help the front runners in terms of the championship standings that they are effectively playing catch-up this race. To be fair, they're all stuck in the midfield, and effectively with that tyre reset, as you've said, it just gives the opportunity for other drivers to get a hint of just form, if nothing else. You know, if you have a good, strong result, you sense that, hey, maybe I don't have the points, but I have the pace at the moment, and I can use that to... Oh,
safety car in this lap. So late. It was pretty much at pit lane exit. We're not going to see the McLaren come through, and Lolinover has to very hastily slam on the anchors coming out of the Casio triangle, and now pins his right foot for a slightly belated restart, and Gridjoke's already under the cosh because Kareem 17 alongside him on the run into turn number 1, eyeball to eyeball the Mercedes versus the Alpine, but the grip of the Mercedes hangs it out around the outside of 1, keeping it pinned through 2, but this time Kareem 17 has the high road, and Kareem 17 has a spot on the podium. Further back is Safso moving ahead of the Ferrari of Chappers in the battle for 11th and 12th. Lolinover galloping away out in front, checking out, trying to leave Razin in his wake. Kareem 17 though looks racy here at the restart.
I'll tell you what, Razin was saved by that as well, because Gridjoke's got a bad restart, and that meant that they weren't able to attack the medium tyres like they could have done on the soft. So Fratic being quite aggressive over the curbs as well. Meraki not getting a great restart, must be said. So it's all to play for the Williams driver here. They're both on medium tyres, so they will have an advantage toward the end. Let's see. Karim thinks he's got a race to win. Yeah, definitely. P3, it's possible, but you need to get past Razin first. You need to effectively drop Razin from the top 2 and then fight it out with Lolinover. Will that happen? No idea.
McLaren off, Lenz the Goat going off on the run into Spoon Curve. Shouldn't be another safety car, but a confident Kareem 17. That is a dangerous Kareem 17. We saw it in Qatar, we saw it again in Brazil. Just getting into the flow is Kareem 17, season 9 champion. Let's not forget, he fancies himself here, challenging Razin and Lolinover, diving down the inside. Infratic battling away with Meraki just ahead of them. I think Alex Gillen was thinking about a move on Dak Gavitz as well. Meraki repels the assault from the Williams so far. No DRS to be enabled just yet, but still Fabio desperate to try and push the championship leader down a further spot, going defensive. The Williams doesn't care one jot about it, darting to the inside. But it's the confidence of the season 4 champion to cling on to P5 around the outside. Alex Gillen still sinking his teeth into Dak Gavitz, trying to get himself ahead of the RB and get himself onto the back of one of his main championship rivals. Unable to do so at this stage, ducking and weaving underneath the rear wing of the RB car. Vince might be about to lose the DRS to the group of cars in front. That is what Gridjokes has done, and potentially Lolly's broken away as well.
Yeah, I just want to say it's lovely to see clean and respectful racing. It's always beautiful to spectate it, and it must be great to drive as well, as you're against another penalty, sadly, for the blue flags once again. So just the race going from bad to worse, to be fair, for the Williams driver. But yeah, just such great and just mindful racing, just demonstrating the skills of the drivers out there today. But as you said, yeah, Gridjoke's getting dropped here, and that is a disaster for Meraki, who, to be fair, is also under pressure from getting dropped to Gridjokes as well, and has done now 1 second. So this is turning into a bit of disaster for everybody behind them.
This is Lolonova putting his foot down, same as Cream 17, dives to the inside into the Casio triangle. Will he give Razin the timer down the outside? Bit of a bump and a grind as the Haas makes for the runoff area, but it's going to be the Alpine on the inside through the final corner. Lolonova smashes the fastest lap, now 2 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack, but it's the Alpine in the ascendancy on the run down into turn number 1. Does dispose of Razin Chai and can hot-foot it after the race leader in Fratic. He tried it on the previous lap, this time he does get it done. Gets ahead of the championship leader Meraki, and now fighting over the same piece of tarmac as last week's race winner Tim McMardock, with Alex Giddens still stuck behind that guy Vince.
Now we will see the pace of Karim because he's got 1.7 seconds to catch. He needs to at least catch 0.8 of a second, and yeah, have to let Karim by. That's a very strategic decision from Razin there to just recognise that, okay, the tyres aren't up to pace right now. We'll have our chance at the end of the race, but we'll only get it if we're pulled along by a driver on the soft compound tyre. So a very good thinking mind at this stage of the race. It can be very difficult to sort out a strategy like that, but he's got his head on his shoulders and firmly on his shoulders, and they will probably end up getting at least a bit of time back, 1.5 seconds. So 0.2 of a second have been gained so far. It looks like Karim does indeed have that pace.
The chase is now on, fastest first sector for the Season 9 champion, half a second quicker than Lolonova. Matt 2-on-2 pushing the second Scarlet Ferrari of Tukey through Spoon Curve, but a good run out of it. Means the Matt 2-on-2 is just going to have to bide his time on the run through 130R and into the Casio triangle. Razin Chai holding on to the coattails of Cream 17, the battle for second and third. A second and a half further back is Gridjokes, who's now going to be under pressure from Infratic. Fastest lap of the race goes the way of the Season 9 champion. 29.3, 0.3 of a second faster than the race leader. Meraki bumped down another spot. That's going to be crucial for the championship as Alex Gillen moves forward as well. Tim McMardock getting ahead of the Season 4 champion, with the reigning champion now hot-footing it after his teammate.
Yeah, indeed. And there probably won't be a switch because at the end of the day they are fighting over the points. And although Meraki probably has a bit less pace at this stage of the race, they're definitely going to try and take points off of each other, so don't expect any helping from either of them, to be fair. That guy Vince also still in the books to challenge if anything happens at the front of the pack as well, although again the inconsistency that we saw in qualifying is not working itself out there. Meraki just again confirming that the pace is not where he wants it to be, and he's just trailing Tim McMardock as well, who's struggling to get back onto Fratic's pace as well. As in the midfield, Ricky challenging Matt 2-1-2 as well. He's got past, it looks like, just after the hairpin, and Tukey in front of them on the hard compound tyres is doing a decent job just remaining in DRS of Chappers for the moment, but it could be a scenario where in one lap's time it won't be the case.
Fifth 10-second penalty for ignoring blue flags for Jorik van Geffen, currently holding 19th in this race, but will pick up the wooden spoon come the end of the 53-lap Grand Prix, courtesy of the litany of penalties that he continues to pick up throughout this race. Green 17 has just fallen away ever so slightly, 2 seconds now, the gap out in front. Here comes Meraki back past Tim McMardock into turn number 1, the championship protagonist renewing the spoils once again, with Alex Gillen a further 1.3 seconds back, and Meraki returning the favour for what we saw Tim McMardock do on the previous lap. Fratic hasn't managed to get up into 4th place just yet. Sasso battling incredibly hard with that Gavitz through the S's of the first sector. Couldn't quite force the Aston Martin far enough alongside to earn the right of respect to Racing Room to battle his way up into 9th position. Has 2 Scarlet Ferraris waiting in the wings as well to try and push him down a further spot. 10 laps to go in this Japanese Grand Prix. The chase still very much on out in front, but as it stands, Lolonova could be picking up a very important second win of the season.
Yeah, Karim is dropping pace here and the first, and that's an overtake after the hairpin. So something has gone on with Karim here, possibly just some balance issues with the car. But I noticed that the first sector was off by 0.3 of a second already. I will have to wait for the second sector time, but as you can see, Razin has got past without any DRS or anything, probably an overtake on the inside up into the hairpin. So yeah, the mediums probably having a better turn of pace now, and we'll have to wait and see whether Razin can close that 2-second gap now. Looking at the sector times, yeah, again, Karim 1 second loss, so that overtake happening, and Safso challenging that guy Vince. So that guy Vince's pace is just not there today, and it looks like he's made a mistake as well.
Unfortunately not for Vince. Sasso, I think, is going to make mincemeat of the RB car on the run down into turn number 1. The Aston Martins are both in a straight line, but just about with the helping hand of DRS. Gets through, I say that. Bit of contact, and he slides into the Alpine car. Car park through the centre S's, not the centre S, the S's, as there's so many cars caught up in it. Safety car surely is going to be deployed. No, it's just a VSC. Chappers is thrown out of the race. His wheel was chucked off his car. No front wing for one of the Alpines in there. I think that's Riccio 3, and the full safety car has now been deployed. And that is going to bring Razin and Kareem back up to the tail of Lolinoba. Safso was up the inside, but just lost the back end of the car, spun into the RB of that guy, Vince, and everybody else went cascading into the side of them.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. I tell you what, Lolinoba might have a chance to pit for a set of tyres. I mean, it's probably not a good idea, but there is the opportunity is what I'm saying, because there is a gap down to map 212 that is about 20 seconds from Lolinoba. So it's possible. I'm not saying you should do it, but there is an opportunity to do it if you think that's a good idea. I wouldn't do it. The track position is key. But will we see anybody try it? I mean, if you're P2, P3, do you attempt it? Kareem lacking a bit of confidence. Will he just try and bolt on a fresh set of tyres? Question marks. Lots of them at the moment.
Interesting. Lolinoba's definitely going to stay out, you would imagine. Relinquishing track position, as we've seen, is not entirely wise. So difficult to make overtakes. And if you fall out of the 1 second window of the cars in front, very, very challenging to try and get it back. I think we're going to see a game of chicken here. Who dives into the pits and who stays out? Lolly's in. No, he's not. Throwing the dummy. Everybody dummying into the pit lane. They do, in turn, all stay out. Alex Gillen as well, you can see in the background, staying out as well. Caught me off guard as well. I thought they were coming into the pits very late, darting back out. Riccio 3 has no front wing. He's definitely going to be coming into the pits, along with all of the drivers that were caught up in that kerfuffle into turn number 1 on the previous lap. Map 2 on 2 stays out along with Tukey. Map 2 on 2 has a 3-second penalty looming over his head, so be mindful of that come race end. I tried to bait him, it almost worked. Almost baited us as well.
Yeah, well, there was that possibility. I think all of the drivers could see that gap and were like, if someone goes for it, I'm kind of forced to do that as well. So, yeah, that was an interesting one for sure. And I was thinking that they were all coming in also, just to back you up on that one, Tom. But yeah, it's that kind of stage in the race where your tyres are sufficiently worn that it is an advantage to be on a fresh set of tyres. And now that leaves it in an awkward position for people like Alex Gillen and Matt 212, because everybody behind them is going to be on a fresh set of tyres. So rather than attacking the people in front of them, they might actually play defensive now for the rest of the race, which, you know, for Alex and Tim McMurdoch trying to score big points here, that might be detrimental.
100%. Proper sprint to the finish this now here in Suzuka. Lolinoba's got to do all the hard work all over again. Managed to break away to the tune of 2 seconds ahead of Razin and Kareem. Kareem and Razin and Kareem, they traded blows throughout that middle stint. Gridjokes didn't quite have the pace. 3 lap older tyres, I believe. Yes, 3 lap older tyres for the pole sitter. Managed to withstand the assault from Infratic, from Meraki, from Tim Roddick and Alex Gillen as well. So now we've got the top 3 in the championship, line astern on the road, fighting over the same piece of tarmac with nothing to separate them on track or in tyre spec as well. Matt 2 on 2 and Tukey rounding out your top 10. Watch for Dakar. Vince has lamented his lack of pace, but on brand new soft compound tyres, he's going to be pretty speedy in this final stint. People blaming that it was a purposeful safety car. I implore you to watch back people's POV, because that was definitely not a purposeful late race safety car. We had a car park going into turn 1. The VSC came out, and then the full course caution was deployed, which is why everybody has been brought back together, and we'll have probably a 5-lap sprint to the flag, with Lolinoba asserting his claim for a potential late championship charge, with 2 former champions lined up behind him.
Yeah, it was just a classic turn 1 mishap in terms of overtaking, just 2 people going for the same line, and as soon as the Aston Martin was sideways, that was basically the end of it, because they were parked on the apex and nobody could get out of the way in time at all. So yeah, while some incidents could be controversial, I don't think that one is quite controversial. Maybe the overtake in itself is controversial, that's for sure. But yeah, it does mean that the gap between Razin and Lolinoba is reset, and perhaps indeed those medium tyres now might have a better chance. But for sure, from Lolanova's perspective, they've done all the hard work, they built the gap, and it's now been reset again, so that can be a tough one to take mentally, to just reset and go again. And hopefully this time the safety car doesn't decide to come in on the last corner of the lap.
Maybe you'll be hoping it does, because I think it did benefit him, to be fair, because he managed to get a late jump on Razin, because everybody was so flustered and had to be so quick in making sure they got back into a position for the restart. Big gap those four, because I think there's been some kerfuffles going on, letting the lap cars go through. 6 seconds between Tiamat Marduk and Alex Gillen, as Matt 2-on-2 off the road through Spoon to allow Jurek Van Geffen through. 43 seconds worth of penalties to his name. I can't remember what the record is for number of penalties in the Creator Series. I don't think he's breached it quite yet. We need to get to 60 seconds first before a disqualification might be looming. Matt 2-on-2, sorry, I think he might have driven into the side of Alex. The safety car is called in slightly earlier on this occasion than before. We've got a McLaren in there though. I think that's Lenz the Goat behind the top three. Not good news for Grid Jokes. He's rolling over for the second time. He's going to put his foot to the floor. And to start lap 48, 6 laps to go the Japanese Grand Prix. We are racing, hopefully, to the flag. Razanchai into the slipstream. Can he make any impression down to turn number 1? The answer is a firm no, as the McLaren is still in between the Alpine and the Mercedes of Grid Jokes. That's going to leave the Merc vulnerable to an assault from Infratic on this opening lap. But the Williams not too close to make a move through the sweeps. And now getting off the circuit goes the McLaren of Lenz the Goat, getting out of the way of the pack, who file on through. 0.4 of a second the gap out in front. Well, no, we think he definitely has the pace to still win this race. But will those medium tyres bolted onto the Haas come to the forefront in the closing laps?
Yeah, Razdan quite aggressive on the overtakes as well, so I think Lolanova just can't afford to become complacent anywhere on the track. This has to be inch perfect for the remaining laps of the race, and any lockups or anything that happens. As you can see there, aggressive, I think from Tiamat Marduk, who's got a run on Meraki. Can he make it stick? It's going to be side by side into Spoon. Tiamat Marduk has to go all the way around the outside, and just the overspeed of Meraki, the shorter line, saves the day. But what an opportunistic move from Tiamat Marduk. It could have worked out, and that will just put Meraki on the back foot, maybe a little bit compromise now in terms of the mental game, that he can be so easily challenged into the hairpin. That guy Vince has got a run on Matt 2-1-2 as well. Will he attempt the overtake? He kind of has to, because he's on the fresher tyres round the outside into the Casio Triangle. Oh, Matt nearly collecting Alex. That would have been a story, but they go side by side. They will be compromised in terms of pace, but it's now a drag race down to turn 1.
Both of them braking so late. Datkovitz is going to be the joker in the pack. You would imagine in the remaining 5 laps. Alex Gillen jinking all over the place, trying to potentially put Tiamat Marduk off into the braking zone of turn number 1. And that battle between the top 2 in the championship for 6th and 7th has pushed Jake out of the DRS range of the leading group of 5 cars. And that's going to make the championship battle even spicier, with Lolanova still holding first and Razanchai in second. Kareem 17 third, looking to pick up back-to-back podiums for the first time this season. Team radio from Tiamat Marduk. Let's go get him. Let's let him burn his battery. We know historically that Jake, not the best when it comes to battery management on the F1 games. I think he'll probably agree to that as well. The battle for 6th, 7th and 8th debated by the top 3 in the Drivers' Championship. Equidistant, the leading group of 5 cars as well, as Jake just clinging onto the coattails of the Williams of Infratic. Riccio through on the fresh rubber, bumping Matt 2-1-2 down a further spot. I think the Mercedes, you would imagine, is going to be defenceless. He's going to try and fight it on the run up to Spoon Curb, but he's going to be on the outside. I don't think he's going to get the road there that he needs to try and battle back inside the top 10.
Look at that pace difference. He's already pulled 2 car lengths on Matt 2-1-2, so he's getting the traction down. And now the next target is well, for that guy Vince, it's Alex Gillen, but Ricky will be trying to also remain with that guy Vince and do the overtakes at the same time. Alex is going to have to go defensive, and that means he can't attack Tiamat Marduk, and we all know he wants to. So yeah, the gap will be increasing. Meraki still has the DRS's concept, gets another penalty. Tiamat Marduk getting a bit closer, but not possible to attack at the moment. But for Meraki, this is dire straits now, because he has effectively lost 3/10 on this lap, and losing the DRS will mean that he has to continue to drain the battery effectively. Look how much pace that guy Vince has. Alex is having to park the bus here, and he's going to have to make the car as wide as Sergio Perez does every single time we see him in an F1 car. This is now challenging Alex's racecraft, that's for sure.
100%. Those soft tyres seeing a very nice tune at the RB. But Alex Gillen, wise old fox that he is, knows how to hold on to places. Kareem 70, whatever happens now, I'm not mad with the situation. I think that's because he saw he didn't quite have the pace to challenge Lonova before the safety car came out. So he's been given a reprieve, closed up to the back of the RB, but now has the Haas of Razin Chai in between the RB and the Alpine car. First, second, third, darting through Spoon Curve, equidistant almost to the millisecond, separating with Grid Jokes and Infratic still rounding out your top 5. And then it's the top 3 in the championship, in the order they are in that championship, separated by 3 points. Remember, Meraki, Tiamat Marduk, Alex Gillen. Meraki 1.1 off the back of Infratic, 7/10 back to Tiamat Marduk and Alex Gillen, who's under the cosh from the soft tyre runners behind. Dakovic leading that assault. As we go through the Casio triangle, Razin Chai, I was going to say, might he be thinking about a move? Now he's going to be on the defensive as he gets all out of shape going through the final few corners. Is this Kareem 17's opportunity maybe to send it round the outside? Does the Alpine have the overspeed? The answer is a very firm no, and he has to sit and wait behind the Haas car once again with 3 laps to go. Alex Gibbon still holding firm in 8th as well.
Lolanova giving the slipstream to Kareem there to force an overtake or force to side-by-side, so hopefully he could pull away. I mean, I'm not sure if that's intentional, just him taking the racing line, but he could have played that one differently, that's for sure. And I will say also, Gridjoke's doing a great job in just maintaining the pace on those slightly older tires. Oh, what a snap that was from Meraki! Nearly lost it into the second Degner and nearly got it all over the curb, but that won't help his confidence. And we have a McLaren off. I think that's Lenz once again spinning it. Tyre wear starting to kick in, says Razin. Razin, you're on the mediums. You're meant to be attacking the car in front, not getting challenged. So this is an interesting one. Are the mediums sort of scrubbing and having a scrubbing effect on the track? We'll have to wait and see.
That's not the best on its tyres. Neither of the cars around. Kareem 17 still tucked up underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari engine Haas car in front. We've got the McLaren of Lenz very much face first with the barriers in the first sector and now retiring from the race. Lolanova, Razin Chai, Kareem 17, all 3 of them race winners, 2 of them champions, and it's Lolanova trying to make a late surge to throw himself into championship contention as we start the penultimate lap. We know the Italian stallion is running low wings. Can Razin Chai make any real impression with the helping hand of DRS? Once again, can't get close enough to challenge, but he fancies it down the inside of 2. Razin Chai opportunistic, both of them thinking about the championship. Has he managed to muscle his way through as a bit of a shoulder barge, but now through the S's of the first sector, Razin Chai on the money. Razin Chai has the lead of this race.
All it took was 1 second of complacency. The door was left half open, and Razin was only so happy to just put the foot in the door and say, that is my gap, I'm going for it. What a defense though afterwards from Lolanova, just trying to use the tyres, but it was all in vain, and you can see Lolanova's quite probably frustrated about that, getting it all squarely off of Degner 2 and leaving himself vulnerable to an overtake from Kareem. He's wide into the hairpin. Kareem might have a run here. No, battery being deployed, so Lolanova will probably have to defend. I think Razin is in the clear here in the lead of the race. He's got 9/10 of a second. Wow, 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 what a end to the race. We've still got a lap after this one though, so it's all to play for, and now Lolanova is outside of DRS.
Saw his opportunity, chucked it up the inside into turn number 2 and did not look back. The script yet to be written for the final lap. For the first 52, it was Lolanova that was the man that couldn't be moved, but now very much under the microscope here. Is he going to get the DRS? I think he is. Kareem 17 thinking the race win is gone. I would probably agree with him as Tiamat Marduk has managed to muscle his way past his main championship rival into the Casio triangle. Jake bumped down into 7th, overtakes all over the show as we start the final lap of the Grand Prix. Kareem 17, does he have the straight line speed in the Alpine to add to Lolanova's misery? The Italian stallion drops down a spot. Tiamat Marduk versus Alex Gillen into turn number 1. Meraki back up into 6th place. Dak Govins nibbling at the heels of the tree in front of him as well. It's Meraki from Benz from Alex Gillen. Somehow they're still in the same order that they started the previous lap.
That battle isn't over though, because a lot of people have drained their battery. Meraki was under pressure and had to drain the battery and overtakes Tiamat Marduk just to defend from Alex. So has Alex got any battery to spare? Who has the remaining energy down that last straight onto the Casio triangle? There's a car. Safso off, yeah, indeed rejoins just into the path of Matt 212, keeps it on track, but those tyres are completely full of gravel. That is Infratic, I think, defending from Grid Jokes. Grid Jokes
dives down the inside. He's managed to steal 4th place. He's pocket pinched the Mercedes with a buzzer beater on the final lap. Opportunistic stuff from Infratic, and it might have netted him P4 in this race as those soft tyres continue to degrade for the ailing Mercedes car. But for Razin Chai out in front, He's had to sit and wait behind a number of cars that have held the lead. But our very own Creator Series Rockstar has managed to rock the road ahead of Cream 17 and ahead of Lonanoba. It took just one opportunity. The door was ajar on the penultimate lap, and he absolutely plundered his way through, rounding the Casio Triangle for the final time. The Season 5 champion back in contention for the Season 11 champion. On the podium again, on the top step again is Razin Chai, who beats Kareem 17. He beats Lolinoba. Infratic and Grid Jokes round out your top 5. The top 3 in the championship stay in that order. Meraki, Tim McMarlick and Alex Gillen. Datguy, Vincent, Riccio 3 round out your top 10. Matt 2 on 2 and Concept 7 with their penalties tumble. Safso took a trip through the gravel on the last lap through the Degners, and the Season 1 champion picks up Nil Poir. Tukey down in 17th as well. Must have had some kind of malady on the last lap. With Jorik van Geffen, with all of the penalties he's been picking up this race, as Tukey spins it round the final corner. We got the donuts, everybody. It's not the season finale just yet. The reverse entry drift from the Ferrari. But it was Razin Chai. We take that back on the top step. It's been a little while for the Season 5 champion, but he launches himself back into play for the championship.
Got to respect the donuts as well. We love seeing that, even though it isn't for a championship. It might be to celebrate all of the penalties, to be fair. But what an end to the race right there. I mean, you couldn't write that script if you tried. Just the amount of little incidents, little bits of oversteer. I mean, yeah, that was just grandstand finish. And yes, the safety car had a lot to play into that. But at the end of the day, you've got to be opportunistic. You've got to not leave the door open. And I think for Lolanoba, he just got a little bit complacent, and well, all Razin needed was one opportunity.
That one opportunity he grabbed with both hands, and is that the championship back on for Razin Chai, with his main rivals finishing 6th, 7th and 8th. Great day again for Kareem 17, back-to-back podiums for the first time this season, back-to-back second places. The bridesmaid the last couple of weeks. Can he go one better in 7 days' time? We'll have to wait and see. But it is Haas atop the podium. It is Razin Chai back on the winner's step, with Cream 17 and Lonanoba rounding out the podium. Wasn't to be for Lolly, but very important day for him in the championship as well. Very much still in the ballpark. Couldn't quite strike out, but still in the fray, and still with a big, big opportunity going into the final couple of races.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this blows it wide open, doesn't it? You know, you've got drivers that are quite literally on form, and you know, the front 3 are in terms of championship standings are struggling, aren't they?
100%. You would say probably a bit of a frustrating day for those top 3. And look at that, the awards, race winner and cleanest driver for Razin Chai. So that's another point for his championship total. Fastest lap for Kareem 70. I didn't see the other 2. Alex Gillen was on there though. Razin Chai, Kareem 70, Lolanoba, your podium sitters. Infratic, hats off. Potentially driver of the day from 16th on the grid. Got the strategy on point. Got a bit of luck from the safety car, but does come home for his best finish in a few weeks P4. Grid Jokes, the pole sitter in 5th, ahead of Meraki. Tim McMarlick and Alex Gillen, the top 3 in the championship, not finishing on the podium. Dak Gavins, Riccio 3, Super Noodle Bagel, Matt 2 on 2, Chesnoid Gaming, Concept and Safso, your top 15, although I think Matty D was in there, retiring on the last lap, with Chappers and Lens the Goat failing to see the finish. We got the grandstand finish, didn't we, Kieran? As John was saying, probably not the race winner that we thought before the safety car came out, though.
I have to say, it was, as I said, in the early stages of that race, it was all about drivers were sort of questioning whether it was going to be a 1-stop, whether it was a 2-stop. It was relatively, you know, that battle of strategy at that early stage. And until those 2 late safety cars, which I don't know what the virtual Bird Myland is doing with that very late call. It's probably not his call, actually. But either way, so 2 late calls for the safety car to pit in. I'm surprised we didn't get more carnage than we did on those restarts. Nevertheless, it was all about keeping the tyres in check. And I feel for Lolino, but that second safety car kind of ruined his chances of really, you know, getting those soft tyres to the end. And Razin, when he was saying about here's where the tyre wear started to kick in, he was referring to Lolinoba ahead of him by saying this is when maybe the softs are going to start to fall away, the mediums will be the better tyre. And it turned out that way because Lolinoba lost out on the 2 positions, Razin and Kareem, in those late stages. But I have to say as well, Infratic, he, as the race went on, he got more and more confidence back in there. P16 to P4, a fantastic drive. He was saying early on, his pace was decent. It was a shame he qualified down in 16th place, but boy, did he make up for it. That's one of his drives of the season, that's for sure. He really made all the right moves happen, got all the right decisions that he had to get absolutely spot on. So I just want to have to shout out for him there. Tom, I will see. Actually, I'm hearing Gareth is going to throw me over. We've got somebody in to have a chat with them from the podium. So who's it going to be to drag in? It's our race winner in Razin Chai. Razin, welcome to the top step. Welcome back. Familiar feeling, or it's all a bit too unfamiliar now?
I mean, yeah, it's been a well-earned one. I feel like, you know, we were so close to a win in both opening rounds of the season, pretty much in Zanfor and Baku. But yeah, really tough race. I mean, I was on a back foot from the get-go for sure. I realized immediately that every car around me was on a low downforce setup, and I was struggling so much in the straight. I mean, Lolly Nova was ridiculously fast, especially in the straights as well. So I knew I had to do something different, and in the dying laps, yeah, we had to do the up and under, and made it work. And with the tire advantage, it worked.
Speaking of up and unders, your battle between yourself and Kareem70, it was just keeping us all entertained, especially into turns 1 and 2. The first time you managed to make it stick, the second time you lost out. But I mean, it was great fun to watch. I was trying to keep an eye on all of your streams there, just trying to see what you're all saying. But you were pretty confident all the way through that race. And when it came down to that last safety car, was that sort of, were you thinking at that point, this is a race victory, this is on here now?
I actually was thinking the opposite at the time. I was saying to my child, I was actually didn't want that safety car to end because I knew the softs would die off, and my only hope was I started gaining before that safety car. I thought, okay, this is how we get it. They could technically save the tires on the safety car, but luckily it wasn't for too long that safety car. We still had a good amount of racing laps, so 5-6 laps, so I knew it was fine. It was just a matter of when to attack, you know, get out that safety car window, make sure there's no more left, and then, you know, target what works. And with Lolly early in the race, I did it up and under in turn 1 and turn 2, and it worked. So I knew that was my best chance because he probably wouldn't expect it again. And that was it.
Yeah, you started off this weekend. You were, where's this now? Started off with 2 podiums. You're 32 points off that championship lead. You've made inroads to cut down that deficit. How do you rate your chances going into the final 2?
No, it's not possible. I mean, 32 points.
Oh, come on, Razin, go on.
I'm not attending next week. I'm unfortunately away, so well, not unfortunately. I'm away next week, so that's a race out, unfortunately. But I think, yeah, the last 2 rounds are probably the biggest effects in terms of championship thoughts. You know, Qatar getting very unlucky with lap 1 damage, and then no safety car for it to the end, and Brazil, just, you know, strategy didn't really work out with the rain coming in and the rain stopping and telling me to go for slicks, and it wasn't dry enough, and then safety car coming out and some argy-bargy afterwards. So yeah, unfortunately those last 2 races probably did me in, but I wish the 3 of them the best of luck. I think Alex, Ben and Jake, you know, again today, I mean, they're right next to each other, so I think it's been really close between the finale between them lot.
Yeah, and thank goodness you had no pit lane scuffles to deal with this time around, eh? We can put those to rest anyway. Razin, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the victory. Go and celebrate with chat.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Razin. And we'll go over to Kareem. Oh, Lolly Nova's coming in next. All right, Gareth has grabbed Kareem now from the scruff of his neck and dragging him in to our commentary box. Kareem, welcome to the commentary box. 2nd place in that race. I mean, you showed some great pace through there. P5 up to 2nd place with the fastest lap of the race. You and Razin were having some great battles. You had a good battle with Lolly Nova right at the end there. I mean, talk us through that race from your point of view.
Yeah, difficult track, I must say, especially when you have 45 minutes to learn it, but it was good. Overtaking was difficult, but we had the opportunity into turn 1, so that was there. And yeah, I was just doing my 1-stop, medium to hard. To be honest, that whole first stint, I was debating 2-stop or 1-stop, just because I didn't know how good the hard tires would be. They were decent in the end. And yeah, I think P2 2 weeks in a row, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, very happy indeed. And that's certainly getting you a little bit up the order. As you said, you started this weekend in 9th place in the standings. So you've definitely chipped away. I would say definitely top 5 is possible, surely, for you, Kareem, towards the end.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's my main aim. Top 5, top 4, maybe a little bit of a stretch now. I don't know what the championship is looking like. I'm sad that I'm not in it, but at the same time, it's looking super close. You know, Razin and Lolly Nova both were trailing a few points to the top 3. They've now gained that, so the championship is wide open. You love to see it. But yeah, top 5, definitely aiming for that. And if I can keep this consistency up, then I think I can do it.
Is there anything you've changed? Because obviously at the start of this season, you sort of were learning the wheel and trying to learn all of those, without the racing line and whatnot. You've got 2 podiums in your last 2 races. What's clicked for you, Kareem?
Well, I think the previous 2 races before this, of course, I had the Mercedes, wasn't the only reason I was quick, but at the same time, it does help to get positions made. It makes your whole race a lot easier. But in general, I think it's just taken me a while to acclimatize to no racing line, contrary to popular belief of some fans and drivers. Not going to name names, but yeah, it's more difficult than you realize, like I said last week. And yeah, I think I've been putting in a bit more practice now. My main problem before in the start of the season, not that I thought it was going to be easy, but in the few random races I did, I was okay. My main problem was that I was not driving at all, which on its own, even if you're already good without the line or you use the racing line, you will lose some pace if you don't drive at all. Throw learning no racing line on top of that, you're almost naked, like you're lost on the track in the middle of nowhere. So I definitely didn't help myself, but I've been improving throughout the season, driving more laps, getting more comfortable, and yeah, I think today in the Alpine, which is not the quickest car, I showed what I could do.
Absolutely. Kareem, congratulations on second place today. I'll go and let you enjoy that one. Back-to-back podiums. Go and celebrate. Thank you for joining us, Kareem.
Thank you.
Kareem there in second place, and then we'll drag in Lolinoba, who managed to finish in third place, gained a position overall, but we'll have a chat with him now. Lolinoba, there he is. He's over there, actually. My camera's reversed. Lolinoba, welcome to the commentary box. P3 for you. I bet you're cursing your luck at that final safety car, but, well, the drive itself, molto bene.
Molto bene, but thank you. I don't like the last safety car. I don't like my lander, just say stepped in this lap 1 meter before the pit lane. But this was a good race, really good race. I think I just lost for the second safety car, but it's okay. It's part of the motorsport. Was really good pace today.
Absolutely, and let's talk about your last sort of 4 or 5 races, because you've picked up 3 podiums in those ones. You've really hit a good run of form towards the end of the season. What sort of clicked for you? How have you gone about this really good run of form?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's like Fernando Alonso. I don't know. I just find well with the car. I just find well with no rear. I don't know why, but I find really good today.
And you started tonight as well, 6th place in the standings, and you'll have made some inroads up the order there. What's sort of your target as we head into the final 2 races? Where would you like to be in the standings?
The world champion.
Ah,
surely.
Of course. It's the obvious answer.
Surely. Yeah.
Well, how do you think those last 2 races are going to go? We've got Las Vegas and we've got Abu Dhabi to round off the season. Are they good tracks for you?
Las Vegas last time went really well. I just get another podium there. I just need to stay careful with my wing and my rear and my tire and everything. But in Abu Dhabi, I'm so worried because I don't like so much this circuit, but I just try my best.
Is there a win at either one of those 2 secs on the cards, Lolly?
I hope I get sure win, so I can win the championship. If I come second, maybe my championship is finished. But I don't like this mood. I want to win.
I like it. Well, keep an eye on Lolly in the next 2 races then. He's eyeing up both victories. Lolly, congratulations on 3rd place today. Well done on the result. And I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lolly. And with that, we're going to try and go into the standings and how everything is looking after that hectic Japanese Grand Prix. It is Meraki still at the top of the standings and has extended his lead slightly over the rest of the field. 3 points between himself now and Tiamat Marduk. Alex Gillen now in 3rd place on 115. With that race victory for Razin, it puts him on 104 points. He is in within touching distance Sadly, he's missing a race, so it might be championship over by his own admission because he's missing that race. We've got Lolinoba now up into 6th place. He's eyeing up that championship. You just heard him. He wants both of those victories. He's going to have other results go their way. Kareem as well, up now to 7th place in the standings, and he's aiming for that top 5, which is entirely possible in the final 2 races. John, that's a heck of a shake-up. We've still got, what's that, 7 points between our top 3 drivers, and it's a shame that Razid is missing out on one of the last 2 races because he would have been well up there and well the driver in form.
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, real life stuff happens, as they say. And I think Meraki, to be honest, this race got a little bit lucky. Well, not lucky, defended the position quite valiantly. But, you know, he's finished ahead of the 2 nearest rivals at the moment. And so still has that, in fact, has increased the buffer. So there's, you know, a little bit of optimism to be seen there. But obviously, you know, for Lolinoba, still an opportunity. Never count anybody out because, you know, all it takes is one bad result to just get into the mindset of the drivers. And like, for example, today's race, if you get stuck in the midfield, you try and go aggressive and then it doesn't work out. And all of a sudden, your points gap has evaporated going into the last race. And then it's all to play for and you're on the back foot.
Absolutely. I mean, Tom, John, taking us through that race with pure ease. They made it look so easy, covering all of the drama and all of the strategies. Tom, I've said it before, Infratic from 16th to P4 was a phenomenal drive. I think Meraki as well, picking up 6th place in a race he struggled with, still gaining points on championship rivals. The important thing for him was that Tim McMurdoch and Alex Gillen finished behind him, only the 2 positions behind him, but that still means that Meraki extends his championship lead going into the final 2 races. The question I have to ask you with 2 to go, Tom, is who's your money on?
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because the fluctuations in form are stark. Alex Gillen, 3 races without a podium, hasn't been on the podium since his back-to-back wins 3 or 4 weeks ago. Ben obviously coming off the back of a win. Did he have the momentum to take with him? Maybe not, so finishing behind Jake. And Jake has just been so consistently racking up points. I think his worst race finish this season is 9th. And I think he's only done that once. He might have finished 8th another race. And then it's consistently inside the top 5. So it's so difficult to know if Jake is going to break when the pressure gets applied to him. I think the one thing I will say is we've got so many more interlopers now. We've got Lolly with some really good pace. Kareem's back on form. We're seeing Fabio towards the front. Safso's making appearances up there as well. There's going to be so many drivers that make it even harder for those 3 that are going for the championship. So I might be getting splinters sat on the fence. I will put a name in the hat though. I just feel like Tim McMurdoch has... I've just got a feeling. And I can't say... I don't have any other reason apart from I've got a feeling.
So Tom's going for that 3-time champion being Ben. John, what do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to say, with a lot of people on form, it actually makes it much more difficult for the top 3 in that everybody's taking points off of each other at the end of the day. You know, Meraki, Tim McMurdoch, Alex Gillen, they can't get a big points gap over the other 2 because, well, they're finishing mid-pack. So you have to go and say that, well, at the end of the day, it will be one of those 3 probably that just has a little bit of a pace advantage. And I will go out on a limb and say that a bad run of performance has to end at some point. And looking at that logic, perhaps Alex Gillen can at least have at least one good race to bring himself back onto the forefront. I think looking at how much experience Alex has, probably I'd say still Alex, if he can get a good run of performance, he can probably win this one.
Well, I'm sure all these fluctuations in form, all these fluctuations in who picks up points where, it went in the favour of Meraki because he extended his lead at the top of the championship. Razin putting in a phenomenal drive. He gains on the championship, puts himself within 30-ish points of that championship lead, but unfortunately he's missing a round, so he's ruled himself out of the title fight entirely. Lolinoba is eyeing up 2 more race victories in the last 2 races of the season. He's eyeing for top spot and no less. Kareem, as you said, John, is back on the pace. 2 podiums in his last 2 races. He's very much up and ready and very much in form to see what he can do and make a late charge towards that title. But one thing's for sure is you're not going to want to miss out first on the final 2 races. We head for the final 2 to Las Vegas and Abu Dhabi. Lolly says maybe Abu Dhabi's not his favourite track, but he's eyeing up for definite Las Vegas. We'll see how it all plays out. A big thank you to our commentary team in Tom Wilkinson and John Harris, who have given you all that insight in that race with those 2 late safety cars, not impressing some of our drivers for sure. Big thank you as well to Gareth Harris, who's behind... Oh, Gareth Harris? Who is Gareth Harris? Gareth Allen, it should be. I don't know who Gareth Harris is. That's his pen name, I reckon. That's what he goes by. Gareth Allen behind the studio. I know he hates me calling out his name, especially when it's the wrong one. And of course, we'll wrap that up there. Tom, where can we find you on all your socials?
If you're at all interested, worker.coms or worker.darts on TikTok and Instagram.
And John, where can we find you?
At everything username is amusing. And you can usually find me wrapped around a tree in some rally game or disastrously off the pace in an F1 game. That's why I stick to the commentary box.
Oh, me too. A man after my own heart. That's for sure. And if you want to find me on all the socials, it's Kieran Harris down the bottom there, and you'll be able to find me on socials. In the meantime, though, make sure you do join us for the final 2 rounds of the season, where that championship hunt is all but spicing up. Join us next time in the Creator Series when we head to Las Vegas. Roll on the slot machines. There's nothing lucky about Razin's win today. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.